here?
in here on the Zoom. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast. I am your host, LeTara, back again with Dr. Eric Vera.
Hello. It's so good to be back as always.
Welcome back. Thank you for being on the show again. I know
Yeah,
it's like
and
such a chore, but I
n-
appreciate you doing it
no,
for so
no,
long.
this is always a labor of love, especially when you are sporting passions, swag like myself. I got it and I was so excited. I cannot wait. I'm gonna put a nice little like a nice blazer on and go to the casino with it. And I just want to see what people do. I want to see if
Yeah.
they're who is that? What is that? And maybe by chance there will be somebody that's like, where did you get that Tabitha and Timmy shirt?
I know. I feel the same way every time I wear one of my shirts out. I'm like waiting on somebody to notice it. Like, notice me.
Have you had anybody?
No, I've had honestly, I've had like some looks, but I haven't had
Yeah.
anybody like ask me. I've just had some looks. Like, I think they were more confused than anything else. But
Yeah.
also, I live in New York, so it's like there are far stranger things on the
Oh
street
yes, I'm sure. Yeah,
than
exactly.
like my passions T-shirt. But
Yeah.
yeah, we both have on. I have on my lovable lunatic
Oh,
one today because she's
those
being
are the
precious.
two expressions that Teresa makes the most.
Yeah, I love this because she's sweet and then she's just absolutely nuts, right? And we love it. And yeah, I thought it was apt for this week, but I'm so glad you like your shirt.
Oh, I loved it. Loved it. I'm thrilled.
So if you want merch, if you want t-shirts like Eric, cool. If you want to be cool like me and Eric, on over merch. But before we go on today with the regular episode, I would like to give a shout out to all of our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Breland, Lisa, Sid, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Amanda, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean S., Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, and Jessica Jean. Thank you all so much for being patrons. And if you would like to become a patron, feel free to go on over to patreon.com/passions podcast. The link is in the description on our link tree and sign up for whatever tier you like. We just had a watch party this past week, which was so fun, and we're having another one this
Was
week
fun. Yeah.
on the 28th, another one September 28th, and then we'll do another two next month in October. And yeah, there's lots of fun stuff on the Patreon, and I'm going to be doing more stuff on the Discord soon. I'm planning to do more like live watching, like we'll do like the regular watch party, but also I'll do like whenever I'm watching the episodes, like maybe do that on Discord and people can like hang out with me while I watch the episodes. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a thought.
Yeah. Oh, that would
I
be
feel like it
fun.
would make it less of a chore.
Hey, well, we had a good time with our group that showed up on Thursday.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you to who all came. Lisa was there, Belle was there, who is
Maria.
Larissa but goes by Belle. Maria, our
Yeah.
our resident Gwen lover,
And
Maria.
And we get to talk about our cross loves because I also talked about Big Brother, which is one of the only reasons why I left early. I did not want to go, but it was a double eviction night on Big Brother, and I had to get to the TV.
Yeah, you had to get out of there. We stayed on for a while though. We had a good
I'm
time,
so
and
jealous.
Jeanette
Good.
was on. I can't
Yeah. What
remember.
other
Was there anybody
topics
else?
did you all? What other topics did y'all discuss?
We just talked more. Honestly, we ended up talking more about like Teresa and Ethan, and then we talked more about like reality TV. We talked about Big Brother some because
Yeah.
Maria is also a big fan of Big
Yes,
Brother,
I know.
and so she was telling me like where to start.
Yes.
And speaking, listen, we're gonna get into passions real, but first, very quickly, y'all, today I have started a new reality show that is changing my life, and it
Which
is Love Island.
Oh, hey, you know what's funny? There are a lot of Big Brother people who love Love Island. A
I
lot of
can
my
tell it's
friends.
very similar. I think
Yeah,
it's similar.
I think that's
Um,
why they see the attraction to it among
I
the bodies that I'm sure are there as well.
I spent like 5 or 6 hours yesterday just on TikTok scrolling through this girl's page who had she had like all of these clips of Love Island, and before I knew it, like 5 hours had passed and I watched like almost all of season 5 like pared down, and I was like, you know what, I have to watch this show. So I started on the UK version and I was like, these people are very, very dumb. No offense to anybody in the UK, because the people in the US are dumb too, but it was like the combination, and it was the first season, so it was 10 years ago, so they were like extra, like it was just, the culture of the show was bad. But so I switched over to US and it's so good. Like, it's so good.
I mean, there's so much to watch. It's just too much. It's too much. But
it's, oh my gosh, that's another thing. The seasons are so long. We're going to come back. You know what? I'm going to come back to this later. We're going to get on with passions. But
well, just on one last note on when you get to hang out with us during a watch party, it is a spoiler zone, which is fun. Like, we go beyond what we already know because we just assume we all know it, and that was cool too, to talk about what's coming ahead with people who know what's coming ahead. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Speaking of what's coming ahead, honey, let's go on with this show. It's getting rough out here for my girl Teresa. I'm very worried for my baby girl. But we're gonna start with Louise, because there's just a little bit of them this week. Really, there's not a whole lot to talk about with them. So we're going to talk about Louise and kind of segue into the Teresa, Ethan, Gwen, now Julian situation. So let's pick up where Julian plans to kill Sheridan, and his plan is that she'll have an accident while she's in Bermuda.
Yeah.
He's gonna, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all what the plan is, because it comes up pretty soon.
Yeah.
He basically says that he put a brochure for chartering boats in their hotel room in Bermuda, and that Louise took the bait because he had heard that Louise was a big angler. He liked to go deep sea fishing. He liked being out on boats. So he figured if he put the brochure there, he would take the bait, and he's going to cause some sort of accident for this boat. His plan is that Sheridan will definitely die. Louise will hopefully die, but if he doesn't die, he'll spend the rest of his life blaming himself for Sheridan's death, and he won't have any time or the capacity to look into his father's disappearance anymore. That is the plan. It's, you know what? As far as Julian's plans go, it's a solid one.
Yeah. I don't think the logic behind it is all that well thought out, in that I assume Louise would just assume that this was Alistair and Julian. Like, I think he would immediately go there. I don't think he would blame himself right away. But if you can't link it to them, you can't do anything about it, which is probably what would happen.
I think Julian feels, because they are outside of the US, that it takes suspicion off of them because they're no longer in harmony. And as far as Louise knows, Julian's still in the US. But you raise a good point, actually, because we know that the Cranes are rich. They can make whatever they want happen. They don't have to necessarily be physically in a place to cause something or wreak havoc, though both of these Cranes are here.
Yeah, both of them are there, which is like defeats the purpose of like trying to get your name away from what's about to happen. Also, Julian does mention that of all places, he would probably be able to buy these cops off faster. But I'm like, you already kind of have a hold over Harmony PD. Like, we've seen you do that before, but whatever. But yes, he says on the island, he'd probably be able to get away with a little bit more. So he can
Which is reasonable, because here's the thing. In Harmony, sure, he can buy off like Packer. Remember that crooked cop?
Packer from The Office.
Yeah. But he could never buy off Sam. He could never buy off Louise. And Sam's in charge, and it's his department, and it's like they're not really allies of his in any way. So I could see him thinking, in Bermuda, I have a better chance of turning these cops.
Flying over to Bermuda, and that's where we see Sheridan and Louise on a flight to Bermuda.
Sheridan and Louise head to Bermuda. They get to the resort. It's beautiful. Louise has a white tuxedo for some reason. They keep telling us he's poor, right? But like, why does he have so many tuxedos?
Also, Yeah, he mentions like at some point they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have to come back here again on our real honeymoon." And he's like, "I'll do it for you, baby." But it's like, how much are we living off Sheridan's trust fund? Because
Which would
I'm
be
already,
fine.
yeah, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm not making people conform to gender roles or whatever. All I'm saying is Luis is kind of that person that's like, I got this, so I don't know how he would let Sheridan do that.
No, I 100% agree. That's what I'm saying. It would be, to me, for me,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
fine. But I know that Luis would not like that one
yeah.
bit.
That was a
So
little out of character for him to be like, but they're glowing. They're glowing this whole week.
they really are. Yes, they get into the hot tub as young couples do. They're having like warm, fuzzy, happy, sexy time. And they're of course talking about, well, Luis says, nothing's gonna break us up. Basically, the same conversation they continue to
Yes,
have.
not Alistair,
Sheridan,
not Julian, not Becca, which we heard on the watch party. We're like, who's Becca?
yeah, I think I said that he probably messed up his line, and they were just like, we don't have the time to fix this. Just go on. We'll just
Maybe
go with
he
it.
has a little something for Becky. Maybe he's got a little like.
Don't even, don't even start with me right
Then
now.
we see Andrea Evans going to the camera like,
Like I could see her having a thing for him, but him having a thing for her, absolutely not. And not because she's not beautiful or anything, but because she's like the antithesis of everything he stands for.
I'm gonna write fan fiction. That's what I'm gonna do.
You're gonna write some Luis Rebecca fan fiction?
Fan fiction. What is their couple name? Lueca? Ruiz? Ruiz. There we go.
Lueca, Ruiz, yeah. Oh my gosh. Girl,
But there,
oh my gosh.
this is a fun episode. We're all over the place
I'm all
already.
out of sorts. Okay.
You know why? It's because I'm wearing a Tabitha and Timmy shirt. That's why.
Yeah, they're causing wreaking havoc on her. And I got the lovable lunatic over here and she's doing her
We're
thing and
emulating who's on our shirts.
just throwing us off. No. So yes, they're in the hot tub. Luis and Sheridan in the hot tub. They're talking about their hopes and dreams, basically. And we see that Alistair is watching them from the bushes. Like, he literally is there watching them with his cigar in hand. He's like squeezing it tight. It's very phallic. Like, it looked like, I don't know, maybe I was the only one who picked that up, but it looked like he was like using the what is that cigar? Oof, this motion.
Oh, how fun! Y'all are on on the Patreon. You need to
Oh my
be.
god, I have to censor. I have to censor that. No. He's like squeezing this cigar as if it's his own dick. It was really weird.
Yeah, it was
It was
very.
as
There's
he
a
watches his
lot of dirty
daughter
stuff
get
this week.
yeah, as he watches his daughter get it on in a hot tub. It was just very odd.
And at this point, I do assume that they believe there's some sense of privacy, but they are exhibitionists. We discussed that. Louise and Sharon are exhibitionists. They don't mind
Yeah.
showing.
Yeah, they don't mind showing off. If I look like that, I would be all right with it too,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, if you got it, flaunt it.
yeah.
So yes. So they're doing their thing. They think about why Julian wanted them to get married.
Yeah.
Nothing happens with them.
It's
Nothing.
all just recap. Yeah,
We've already spent too much time on them because
yeah.
absolutely nothing happens.
Yes, I mean we really could flash forward. They have a romantic dinner at some point. An older couple tells them congratulations. They don't want to ruin the congratulations vibe. They just are kind of just pretending they're doing a pre-honeymoon. Basically, they're like, let's have fun. We
Yeah,
went through a lot. Ivy
yeah.
crashed her car into the church. My
Yeah,
sister's
they're
going
on a
to
couples trip and they keep talking about Teresa and Ethan and wishing they could come on the trip with them and blah, blah, blah. And Alistair's lurking the entire time. Meanwhile, Julian has flown down to Bermuda, which before he left, I want to say this one thing. Before he left, he is talking to Rebecca about his plan to go to Bermuda and kill two birds with one stone, basically. Ivy overhears this conversation and she says, who are you going to kill now, Julian? And I just wanted to say that line because I just loved it so much, and so much
Oh
that it
yeah.
might be the episode title. Who are you going to kill now, Julian?
Yeah.
And he tells her he's headed to Bermuda to kill their marriage, and
So
she's very
good
upset.
segue. Yeah, good segue. He says, there was a lot of tension here because he really holds a lot of power right now. And he tells Ivy, basically suggests you need to leave before I come back because I want you out on your lying, adulterous butt. And he gives her a little kiss on the cheek, was kind of very like menacing and maniacal. And of
Yeah.
course, Rebecca's loving every minute of it.
Yeah, I didn't love every minute of it because it's weird to me that Julian. No, it's not weird. I understand how Julian has so much power. I understand why he also is so upset. I do get that, but he's been a horrible, horrible, horrible husband. A terrible husband.
Yeah.
And they tricked her into marrying him. And he
Yeah.
knows that. And like for him to be so upset at her, it just seems like it's
Which
just
is
you
he
deserved to get this get back, to be honest.
Yeah, what's so funny to me, and I've always often thought about this throughout the entire series, is they actually should have a lot of empathy towards one another because they were both screwed over in the exact same fashion.
Yeah.
Julie wanted to be with Eve, Ivy wanted to be with Sam. They end up together. If they would have some type of compassion toward one another, they might actually have develop a friendship because the two of them know exactly what the other two are going through.
Yeah. And they could have had a really great marriage, I think, because
Yeah.
Ivy was really excited. If you look back on like the old flashbacks of her version of events, she
Yeah.
was like coming down these stairs
Yes.
excited about getting married to Julian. Like she was happy
And I
that
think
she was
Hidden
gonna.
Passions also talks about it too, where she was just kind of like, all right, these are the cards that I was dealt. Sam's not an option anymore. I'm gonna make this work.
And I think had he just been
Well,
nicer to her.
she overhears the
Yeah.
Alistair Julian like bed her, make errors. That's your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
It's unfortunate. They could have had a good relationship, but
yeah,
they didn't. Anyway, that's basically it for Sheridan and Louise. They're gonna charter a boat. Louise has already told Sheridan we're gonna go out on the boat tomorrow. She's excited about it. Um, and we'll see what happens with them.
yeah.
Really, that's
There's a little bit of magic that comes around, which like a forewarning. Sheridan freaks out by the fire. It's not a big deal. When we get to magic, Charity will explain all of that. But
yeah.
they do blum the hell out of each other on the island.
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah,
getting it on all over this island.
oh yeah, the blums were everywhere. They were they got
They
it. They were having
they
fun.
they're getting it on all over this island. So with them out of the way, let's stick with this Bermuda place and talk about our lovable lunatic. My God, Teresa. Teresa, Ethan, Gwen. Let's pick up in harmony first with Ethan, who's feeling down as he should. I feel bad for the guy. He's sulking in a park because he's homeless. Because he's
Yeah.
homeless, he's sitting on a bench in a park. Because where else would he be? Um, and Gwen walks over and says to Ethan, like, "Hey, how are you doing?" She tries to kind of comfort him. And oh shit, actually I skipped something. I skipped the part where Ethan, okay, sorry. Back. Ethan is upset, but what happens first is he discovers that Teresa was at Whitney's house. He walks in on Whitney holding Teresa's wedding dress and he
Yes.
asks her, "Why? Why didn't you tell me Teresa was here?" And she was like, "She begged me not to tell you." And then he asks her where she's going, and she tells him, she begged me not to tell you." And she knows what Teresa's up to. She knows how dangerous it is. She knows that it's the absolute wrong thing to do.
So this is a hypothetical, but like at some point as a friend, you need to stop the person. Uh,
Yes.
And I get what first of all, you cannot control the lovable lunatic. I know that. And I think Whitney full on knows that. But at some point, when do you tell Ethan, hey, you need to go to Bermuda? This is what her plan is. It's all out of love. Go stop her. Like, because I think that's the only person that can stop Teresa is Ethan.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I agree. It irritates me that Whitney does not, in this moment, say what is going on with Teresa to Ethan.
And
And
when Teresa's, you can't stop her. She knows that. So I give her that benefit of the doubt. But at some point, it's like, you already know that she's about to go to the lion's den with Julian. Like, why would you let her do that?
and I know Whitney feels like she's just being a good friend, but I think she's actually doing the opposite in this point.
And in the first episode of this week, Ethan says, "All I want to do is tell her how I'm so desperate to tell her I love her." I'm mad at Teresa because I'm like, at that point, why don't you just go and talk to him and be like, "So we're good? Like, we're not good, but can we fix this? Like, what are our next steps?" Because right there, you just heard what you needed to hear. What He doesn't care about being a crane right now.
And you don't want him to be a crane. Let's be
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. Making Ethan a crane again, even if all the stars aligned and Julian changed his ways and Alistair changed his ways and Teresa managed to change hearts and minds and got them to reinstate Ethan into being a crane, that then means he has to be in that social status, that social, and you don't want it.
Yeah.
She doesn't want it. She didn't want it before. She shouldn't want it now. I
Yeah.
don't understand. I do not understand this girl's idea. And everybody says it in these episodes. I think Pilar and Louise both say it. Whitney might even say it, that Teresa's her own worst enemy and that she often makes things worse by trying to make them better.
That
And
she's been like this since she was a little girl. This is what she
and
does.
good Lord, that is exactly what's going on here. So yeah, Ethan asked Whitney why she didn't tell him that Teresa was there. She says, she begged me not to, basically. And he tells her he understands. He's very understanding. They're making Ethan so much more likable.
Yeah.
So then Ethan goes to the park and sits on a bench, like I said, because he's an unhoused person. And Gwen comes to try and comfort him, and he kind of snaps on her at one
Oh,
point.
that was good. I think he cannot play dumb forever. You have to know what she's up to. You have to know that she's reveling in all of this. She's enjoying all of this, and she's going to play up this, like, how do I get into your good graces? Like, and this is her shot. I don't blame her for taking her shot. This is what she was hoping for, and
Yeah.
you got to make it stick.
Yeah, I think she's trying to make sure. I think she's found her opening, or feels she's found her opening, and it's like a tiny opening, but it might not get any bigger, right?
Oh
so
no,
I think that's
and
what.
Ethan is snarky with her, like
Yeah,
you said.
he tells her this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
That's what he says.
and she's
And
like, "Don't take it out on me." Yeah,
she's like, I know you're upset, but don't take it out on me, Ethan. And then she like starts to walk off, and he's like, Gwen, wait, I'm sorry.
yeah,
You're right. I shouldn't take this out on you. I'm just upset because this has nothing to do with you. I'm upset. I miss Teresa. I want to just work things out with her. And Gwen accuses Teresa of not being innocent again, and Ethan says no, she didn't do any of that. She's an innocent, and she did everything she did for me. So there we go. He does say he's unsure why she scanned the letter into her computer in the first place. But I think it's a reasonable. If you don't know why somebody did something and you love them and you think that they are truly for you, then it makes sense that you have give them the benefit of the doubt of why they did the thing, right? And I can see both sides of it. I can see somebody looking at it and saying this is nefarious, and somebody looking at it and saying no, it's really not that nefarious. I'm sure she had a good reason for it.
I tried to explain it last time and I muddled up my opinion, but like what I meant to say and what I say is that the reason she did it was she felt she needed it for him at some point. That's what I thought. Was just like, it's a secret that he needs to know at some point in his life, like, and if it goes away, it went away. Like if it
Mm-hmm.
disappears, it disappears. So I had that in my head. But in case you aren't listening to this podcast, this episode, these series of episodes, put in a plot device where Teresa talks to a complete stranger on the plane and tells her why she scanned it. So this lady is like, "Well, but why did you scan the letter?" To which she said, "I thought I would use this letter to make Gwen show her true colors at some point." So that was what her reasoning was to the lady that she was recalling the story to. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how
I
that
remember that was part of the like a part of the plot too. That she was like once going when she learned about it in the
that's
first
right.
place, but she didn't scan the letters until after Ethan had chosen her, and I think
Yes.
that's where the discrepancy comes in.
Yes.
Um,
Because my series of events is all off. It
yeah,
just I wasn't yeah.
well, it's such a mess. The
I'm
thing, it's all such a mess.
yeah, yeah.
You can't help but be jumbled. The only reason I'm not as jumbled is because I actually went back and read my old notes. Really, truly, 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 truly. Like I went back and read my old notes and was like, oh, okay, this is the order of this is the order of operations here. So, no, yeah, I wrote Teresa talks to a rando on the plane and pours her heart out. Classic Teresa.
Can you
To
I mean
this
what a
random lady. She
what
tells
a
her the
saga to
she t-
explain to somebody.
well, and she tells this lady the whole sordid tale, and even this random lady says to her that this is a bad idea. This lady's like, "Are you sure this is a good idea? This man, Julian, doesn't seem so loving and forgiving. Do you think he'll really take Ethan back into the family?" But Teresa's like, "He has to, because I want him to, because it's what I want."
Rando lady. Rando lady making more sense than Teresa.
Well, most people do. Bless her little heart.
Yeah.
She's so this plan is the no, it's the second worst plan that they've had on this show. Kay's plan is the worst one. This
Oh,
one is the second worst, though. Kay's plan is the worst plan. It's the absence of a plan. So, but
yeah.
we'll get into that later. Um, but yeah, even this lady knows this is a bad idea. Anyway, later Gwen talks to her mom and tells her Ethan still loves Teresa, that our plan didn't work. And Rebecca peps her daughter up and says, "No, Teresa is the kind of girl who is her own worst enemy." Rebecca's the one who said it too. Said that she's the kind of girl who's her own worst enemy and that she's going to do something that will permanently wreck her relationship with Ethan. Ethan and Teresa are finished. And she says she'll do something to end Ethan's love for her forever. So, I
God
mean,
bless
they're
a woman
ramping
with
up to
that
the
kind of
thing.
confidence. Yeah, God bless a woman with that kind of confidence because Rebecca is just like she's just she just stays on the path and it's impressive whether you like her or not.
She's not wrong. I
Yeah.
wrote even a broken clock is right twice a day. Because she's not wrong. Teresa absolutely is her own worst
Yeah.
enemy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes I'm looking at her and I'm like, you are worse to yourself than Gwen is. You are damaging yourself way more than Gwen ever could.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely right about this, and she stands on it, stands 10 toes down, and tells Gwen, never give up, never say die, Goonies never say die, never
And
ever.
one thing that Rebecca says that I'm like, we all said on this podcast was Rebecca's like, she made the biggest mistake by running off and not working things out with Ethan. And we all said that. We were like, that's at least somebody said it. I hate that
This
it was
is the
Rebecca.
dumbest,
Right.
stupidest, most ridiculous, absurd.
Yeah.
And at first, what's crazy too is I was wondering where she got the money to do all of this, but then I realized it was like their honeymoon. She like used their
She still had
honeymoon
her
ticket,
ticket. So they
and
were at the airport going, Ethan Winthrop,
yeah,
Ethan Winthrop, please report to gate 14.
I realized I was like, oh, because I was like, how the fuck does she have so much money to just jet off to Bermuda all of a sudden? Also, who was paying for this in the first place? Ivy?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Sheridan. I mean, like because like Sheridan makes it sound like they were going to honeymoon together as well. Like they should have been there with them.
Yeah,
So I
maybe.
don't know.
Maybe
Yeah.
Sheridan. Well, Teresa goes to the
Or maybe it
airport.
was Tia Cristina because she's got a talk show and so
Maybe. So
Pilar and the Lopez Fitzgeralds are struggling with money.
yeah, right. So Teresa arrives in Bermuda and she's at the resort and she starts practicing her speech to Julian. She's hyping herself up. She wants to talk to Julian in public. She's like, I don't want to talk to him in a hotel room just in case anything weird happens. I don't want anything weird happening between us because she remembers the last time they were in Bermuda and he found himself in her bed.
Yeah.
And she talked it up to it being like an accident, but it was still freaked her out, understandably so. So she's like, I know, I'll find him when he goes to dinner. I'll find him at the dining room. She decides, and I do not understand this choice. She decides to go to like the hotel shop to buy a dress. Now, those of you
Nothing.
who have, what'd you say?
She brought nothing with her.
Right, which I understand. She never went home. She
Yeah.
went straight
Yeah.
from Whitney's house and she
Got
borrowed
a
clothes
purse.
from Whitney
Yeah.
straight to the airport. So all she brought with her was her purse, her little purse. And so she goes to the shop to buy a dress for dinner. And she meets up with the lady who was the store clerk there when she was there about a year ago with Ethan when they were on their first honeymoon.
Yeah.
If you all remember, they went to Bermuda once before, and Ethan bought Teresa a bunch of beautiful clothes at this shop that day. Like they did a full on Pretty Woman, and so this lady remembers Teresa. She's like, "You're so beautiful. How could I ever forget you?" And I bet you're on your honeymoon now. And Teresa explains the whole situation, and she tells this lady, "I would like to buy something conservative. I need something to wear to dinner, but it needs to be conservative." This lady's like, "Well, that's not what we deal in here." She's like, "We only got hoe clothes around here, girl."
We show titties. We show titties is the name of the store.
No, we only sell stripper clothes here. Like.
And of all the outfits, there is only one single dress that happens to fit Teresa.
One dress that she said, this is the only dress they had in my size. This girl is basically a sample size. They got your size and everything. Shut up. Shut up. Oh, I can't stand. That made me mad. This was the only dress they had in my size. Bullshit. Bullshit. They didn't have much smaller than you, and they definitely didn't have much bigger than you, but they definitely had stuff in your size.
If I'm gonna go meet Julian Crane, I would have gotten a damn welcome to Bermuda double XL shirt and walked in.
Right. Or just wear the jeans that you've been wearing or whatever. She had on like cargo pants
a nice little outfit
and a cute little shirt. Like she was fine to have this have this conversation with Julian. It's not like you want to spend any time with him or look nice. Like you don't want to look nice in front of Julian. So anyway.
I guess it's under the idea that she needed to go nice for dinner or like at that like I don't know. Was that it?
That's what that's what it seems like that she has to dress for dinner, basically. But you are so desperate. Why don't you just find Julian immediately, have the conversation, and get the fuck back on the plane and go home?
Also, don't beat around the bush.
Oh my gosh. So let's get into it. So this lady gives this girl a piece of fabric to tie around her titties and around her pussy area, and you can laugh into the mic.
I want to super cut the footage of the couples in Bermuda, and we need to put the White Lotus theme song in the background because that's what's happening right now.
My God, yes. Oh my God, yes. Oh, White Lotus was so good.
It's so good. It really
it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, White Lotus was so good, and you are absolutely right. That would be perfect. Anyway,
they're trying
to murder me. Ugh. If you haven't watched it, watched it. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it was so good.
Lotus.
The White Lotus Passions Bermuda version.
Yeah.
So yeah, she wraps this dress around her naughty parts and heads down to dinner, and she goes to the front desk. Meanwhile, Julian has like met up with a bunch of other men who are also in Bermuda to get divorces.
He's
Is
rolling with the
Bermuda the
homies.
place for divorces? I Googled it this morning as I was watching. I was like, what the fuck is with this? Do you go like, and I couldn't find any information about it, about divorces in Bermuda or in the islands.
I know more about the Bermuda Triangle than Bermuda itself because as 90s people, the Bermuda Triangle scared the fuck out of me because of an episode of the Unsolved Mysteries of
I
Unsolved Mysteries.
I literally wanted to go on a cruise to Bermuda with one of my friends, and she refused. She refused. She was like, "What about the Bermuda Triangle?" And she was dead ass serious. And I was like, "You know what? I like you a lot. I'm gonna let it be. I'm gonna
Things
let
in
it
the
be."
90s, the things that in the 90s that terrified me was the Bermuda Triangle, like the idea of ever going over there, and also the amount of quicksand that I
Quicksand. I
would
knew it.
have
Yes,
to eventually end up with because they cartoons and movies made it sound like quicksand was like everywhere,
I
but
thought it
it's
was gonna be
not. I've never
absolutely
encountered
everywhere.
quicksand.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Julian meets up with these other leches. I can't stand this group of old ass men talking like they are like the most, you know what they're talking like? They're talking like they're like the best looking, most sexually pleasing men on earth.
yeah.
Like
Well,
they, and
I,
they're old dudes.
yes, I do think of all of them, Julian is probably the most simpático. Like Julian is probably the most like good looking of the bunch. Because the other they just look sleazy. They're talking sleazy. I think money has always done the talking for them, and so that's why they're talking with such privilege. Not just because they are white rich men, but
Mhm.
it's the fact that they have a lot of power and money, and so that's
Yeah.
probably why they're so cocky. Um, it's it's funny to see Julian be probably the most well behaved of the four because he's not far from them either.
Listen, all I could see in all of those men, they all look like they would absolutely commit sexual assault.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. Yes.
mm.
They all look
It
like.
was it was and I get I it's to set up this idea that Julian's a playboy and he used to do this and that, but now he's old and he's not going to get anything. And they're just kind of being competitive with nobody around
Yeah.
to even give them any sense of validation.
Yeah, there's nobody there to, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's nobody there to validate them.
Yeah.
But anyway, Teresa runs into the weirdest one was like Teresa runs into one of these guys in the lobby after Julian had described her to him. Because Julian, I want to be clear, this entire week and even last week, Julian has been like lusting after Teresa.
Oh,
He's looking at her pictures in the tabloid, thinking about her constantly. He has been lusting about Teresa. So he describes her to these friends of his, saying like, "Oh, there is this one girl back home who's
yeah.
Latina and beautiful brown eyes, long lustrous brown hair."
Do you happen to know any sexy Latinas? That's pretty much how he sounded. Oh, Latina. I wrote down.
Latina.
Yeah, he kept sounding like that. I'm like, "Hi, Julian." I mean, he's just and he is slobbering over her from the flight to Bermuda to hanging out with those guys. He's just like,
Hmm.
if you happen to know this sexy number that my former son, like, and that's the thing too, it's like Julian is like so lusting over what could have easily been his daughter-in-law. Like it's just really,
He is, to him. She's not a blood relative. So
yeah.
so she's fair game. Like,
Well, to him, it's he's just a person with a pulse, and that's all he wants.
yeah. So, and she's stunning. But
Mm,
she has a run in with one of his like lech friends, and
yeah.
this guy will not let her get past him. He
Yeah.
keeps saying like he says, "Oh, how about a drink?" She's like, "No, I can't drink." He's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, how about a walk on the beach?" "No, please let me." And he just
Yeah.
keeps she's trying to get around him and he keeps like literally physically stopping her.
Yeah.
And he eventually she eventually gets away from him and goes like to the elevator and he tells Julian, "Oh, I saw a girl just like the one that you described." Julian doesn't know that Teresa's there, but he knows there's a girl around. And also the hotel front desk person tells him that there's been a girl asking for him because she
Which
did when she got there. She called first and asked if Julian had checked in. Then when she got there, she asked about if he was still there.
which one, a Bermuda hotel staff, you're not supposed to give out that fucking information.
No.
Two, don't tell somebody that somebody called asking. Like, it's just so weird that you're divulging all this information to people when you're not supposed to be doing that. And I'm like,
No.
I know it's 2001, but I'm pretty sure you weren't supposed to be doing that shit back then either. So
Yeah, if you call a hotel and you ask them, "Hey, is this person staying at your hotel?" You cannot tell them who's
yeah.
staying there. I'm going to tell y'all like a scary story and why these kinds of laws exist. Okay? So we're going to go off on a tangent real quick. I used to work in hotels. I used to work front desk at a hotel. And this lady had checked in. I'm gonna give y'all the short version of it. Someone had called, and one of my coworkers actually told the person who called that yes, this person is staying at the hotel. When they called, they asked for this specific lady. The person who was working at the desk obviously was not trained correctly and divulged, yes, this person is staying here. This man showed up to the hotel while I was working on a late night shift. I was working, and he like waited until he saw her. She was there with her kids. She had actually checked in with me and she had told me, and I had put it in her record and told everybody else. She had told me, you know, I'm I'm basically on the run from my abusive husband because she had an issue checking in because she didn't have her own credit card.
Mhm.
And so I had to talk to her mom. Her mom had to send me a credit card authorization, all of this. So it was like in her record that like she, according to her, was on the run from her abusive husband. And I had made that clear to my manager. And there was like a book that we had to write notes in. There's a book that you write notes in and you tell the person who's coming in, like, here are the notes for the week, for the day, and also any other information you need to tell them. But it needs to be written down somewhere. So I had written it down. Couple of days later, this man shows up while I'm working. And I had to call the police because she was like, she came downstairs, she saw him, she looked at me, she was like, "That's my husband." I was like, whoa, holy shit. I asked her, I was like, "Do you need me to call the police?" He comes charging after her. And I called 911 immediately because I didn't know what to do. He's grabbing her, trying to drag her out of the hotel. We had a security guard. He came and like tried to pull that man off of him. So I had to call the police. But yes, that's why you do not tell people when they call, "Hey, is such and such staying there?" Or at your job, if it does such and such work there, when is their shift? Because that's happened to me too, where
Also,
a man will called my job and asked when I was working. It's
God bless.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, no, because also in this case, Julian is like a high profile billionaire, millionaire. Like, how are you just going to say, yeah, he's here? Like, I think your ass would be fired if you tell any. I mean, also Alistair's probably staying in there, so why would you divulge that any crane is staying at your hotel resort?
You shouldn't tell anybody anything about your
Yeah.
guests ever. But anyway, we all off on a tangent. Sorry, but that's a little harrowing tale from my
Yeah,
from my
for
life.
real.
It was actually very very scary, and I take these types of things very very seriously because of that. Because I was like 21 at the time, like I was a
That's
kid.
terrifying.
Yeah. Anyway, um, Teresa asks if Julian is at dinner. Julian is at dinner. So she goes
Yeah.
to she tells the front desk guy to go and get Julian for her. He comes back out, realizes it's Teresa, and is like, "Oh my goodness, Teresa, what are you doing here?" And this girl says,
Oh, I wrote it down too. Yeah, give it
"Well,
to
you
us because it's
say
a
it, because
doozy. Quote. So first of all, a couple things. One, Julian keeps fantasizing about Teresa as well. There is a fantasy that he keeps going back and forth. So I want to set that up. Is that it is after they have made love, to which Teresa is glowing to Julian, who has an exhausted face throughout all of this fantasy, and says, "Make Teresa happy." So apparently in Julian's fantasy, he goes into the third person, much like Timmy. Um, so with that said, when he sees her, like when he realizes the girl that's been looking for him is actually Teresa, who he's been lusting over for about a couple of weeks now. Well, since he's seen her, but like a couple weeks more. The first thing she says to him is, quote, "You are the only one who can give me what I want."
Like, who would phrase it like that? Why would you
The
say,
first
Mr.
thing
Crane, I
she,
have something to ask you?
Mr. Crane, I'm here to talk to you about Ethan.
Immediately. Immediately.
Boner killer. She don't want you. She
Oh
don't
my
want you.
God. But
That's
she
the
did not say
first.
that.
No, she says, "You are the only one who can give me what I want." And he is like, "Oh my God, my fantasy is coming true."
And
He's like, "Confirmed,
yeah, and well,
confirmed."
because she goes on. She
Yeah,
goes on and says, "The minute I heard you were flying down to Bermuda, I knew that I needed to fly down here to see you." Huh? What?
I
And
wrote down, I just wrote down Julian and Teresa are idiots. They're both,
Teresa is especially like,
yeah,
this is more Teresa's fault than it is Julian's, because
yeah,
what are you saying to this man? Now, he should also know that obviously she has no interest in you, but Julian is also a narcissist and believes that every woman
yeah. Oh yeah.
wants him and should fall at his feet. So, yeah,
I was gonna
okay.
say, well, after I wrote down they're idiots, Julian is like he does think that, all right, let me figure out where this is going. So he's curious. He is kind of baffled by it, but he's like, "Why don't we have dinner?" To which he says, "I'll order us up a couple of steaks, build stamina, you know."
Yeah, yeah. And she's like, "Oh, well, it shouldn't take that long." And he's like, "Well, you never know."
He's like, "Let me dictate how long it'll take," something like that. He's just like, "I'll make sure we figure out how long it's."
So then
It's
they
so
go to
weird because
sit
I was just
down.
like, it's so weird and it's so gross, but like it's a whole week of this.
They
Like,
go to sit down. They have like a little bit of this same very confusing conversation back and forth. Her saying somewhat things that can be taken the wrong way and not at all saying what she needs to
yes,
say, and him
innuendo.
taking and him absolutely misunderstanding. And then he walks over to his friends at the bar and explains that he thinks that Teresa wants him to take her virginity because yeah, no, laugh. It's laughable. It is
Why?
laughable.
She wants her first time to be with someone who will fulfill her every desire. To which one of the friends like, "And that's you?"
No, for real though. Fulfill her every desire. Having to look up at that face.
I did write down another one because he said, "She knows I've got the magic." So Julian's got the magic in him.
I, I got
And
the
then,
how's that go? That's a B.O.B. song, and I
"I
can't even remember
got
how.
the magic.
Chick in me,
Yeah.
yeah.
Julian was
Every yeah, terrible song. Terrible
frozen
song.
gold.
Terrible song.
Julian's got the magic, magic,
Magic,
magic.
magic. Yeah, it's a terrible song. Ugh, yeah.
But yeah, is that the song that popped in my head when Julian said that? Yeah, it did.
Makes sense. That's what he said. That's where B.O.B. got the lyrics.
Oh, I had forgotten about this. I do want to say this real quick. I had forgotten about this so much that I am so excited because I forget that there's a character. We have a name for something, and it's Little Julian. And I had completely forgotten about Little Julian.
Did you really?
I did because I know Little Julian comes into play so much over the next few years, but I had forgotten about it. Like I forgot that like we talk about that
Little Julian.
all the
Yeah.
time. And
That's how Alistair
everyone mentions,
refers.
yes.
That's how Alistair refers to his own son's dick. Little Julian. It's so weird. It's so weird. But
And other people will talk about it and they all call it the same thing.
little Julian.
I had
Ugh.
forgotten about it. So this week was like, oh my God, forgot about that. Very
Yeah,
fun.
Alistair says something about him being led around by little Julian and not to let himself be led around by little Julian because you did that you're always doing that, but because I do want to say this one thing
Good. I knew,
about
yeah,
Julian
good.
and little Julian since you brought it up. In one of the conversations between Alistair and Julian, Julian says to Alistair, yes, I'm getting this divorce, but I've been thinking maybe I shouldn't be in a rush to get married again. Maybe I should, be
That
single
one.
for a while and not marry Rebecca right away. To which Alistair says, don't be ridiculous. The last time I let you be single, you almost ruined the entire Crane dynasty by getting mixed up with the worst kind of woman, Eve
Yes,
Russell.
yes. That was because I have, since we've been together, I have not had much Eve Julian storyline. And
Mm,
this was the closest I've gotten to Eve Julian storyline. And I was like, oh, there's Alistair being bigoted as fuck and
mm-hmm.
racist as fuck. And I was hoping, I thought maybe Julian might get like a wistful, like that's why I don't want to get married. Like I just, no, it didn't go anywhere yet like that. But yes, it was, because
Yeah,
usually Julian will have that like wistful, like, oh, Eve, the one that got away, Eve is my true love, and we didn't get that. But it just, at least it's there. I mean, that storyline's running around back there, but
oh,
we're
I
not
love once we really get into the Eve and Julian storyline,
good.
it's one of my favorites.
It's good.
It
It's
is
really,
one of my favorites.
man, do you want them to be together? And you're like, he's an awful, awful person, but she made him good.
Made him better.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway, we won't we'll
You're
get to it
far away from
eventually.
that.
We'll
Yeah.
get there eventually. But yeah, he has this conversation where he says, maybe I shouldn't get married right away. Maybe I shouldn't rush into getting married. So keep that in mind, everybody.
Oh, and Alistair hand acting is like, no, you will marry Rebecca. And I think he has that like, no, you're perfect for each other. Like, I need Rebecca. Rebecca is a loyal soldier, and
Mm,
you just need her. Like, it makes sense. It
yeah.
makes sense. So
Yeah. Okay, so back to Teresa. Teresa and Julian are having this dinner, and she finally explains why she's there and says and asks him to accept Ethan back into the family. And he gets deflated, right? Because
oh yeah,
he had the entirely
serious.
wrong idea. And all his friends from the bar are watching, and they're realizing that, things aren't going so well for Julian, so they're laughing at him. Um, he's already been kind of pressuring her to drink some champagne, but she tells him, I'm not old enough. He's like, you are in Bermuda. The drinking age here is not 20, is under 21. I don't know what the drinking age is. It probably is 18, but, or 16. I don't know. But he's pressuring her to drink. She doesn't want to drink. Eventually he says to her, well, I was really hoping I would love to talk to you more about reinstating Ethan, but if you're not gonna toast and take a
Oh
drink,
yeah,
then yeah. And so
he
she
uses,
takes that drink
yeah.
begrudgingly, and they chug the champagne.
Yeah, and he uses this he knows Ethan's the key to getting her to go to bed with him. And so he becomes a little malevolent at this point. Like it's just really bad.
Yeah,
And also he says he's willing to be convinced, which is another thing to like get her to stay there and to do. Now he does also bring up, they're going to toast. She says she doesn't drink, but he brings up Theresa's kryptonite, which is fate and luck
oh
and
yeah.
fortune. So when he says it is bad luck to toast with water, which is what I've always heard. I've always heard that.
Have
So
you
I've
really?
mhm.
I
I
thought
have
he was making
all
that up.
no, I have heard that from my friends and like whenever somebody's not drinking at the table, they're not, or like if their drink hasn't gotten there yet and they only have, like, you're not supposed to toast with water is what I've heard.
Is it
I
okay to toast with soda?
I
Or is
I
it like you have to toast with alcohol? Because
I
I don't
think you're
like that.
supposed. I know. I think you're supposed to toast with alcohol, but I'm not saying that that is the commonplace truth. I have just heard that it is. You cannot toast with water. Like you
I
can't have
I had never heard that before, but that's what he tells her, and I thought it was
and
bullshit. But she
oh,
falls for it, of course,
yeah.
because he says it's bad luck, and she's like, and she really pops up. She's like, "Is it really?" And he's like,
Well,
"Yeah," because she
because
doesn't know anything about alcohol.
And that's Teresa's kryptonite is if you say he could have said, "Oh, if you don't sleep with me tonight, it's bad luck for your next wedding." Like he because Teresa believes any superstition, any fortune cookie, love noodle, candle,
Yeah,
love candle. Put
yeah,
love in front. That was love champagne. He should have just
yeah.
said, "This is love champagne."
It's a love toast.
Yes, and if you don't drink it, the islands dictate. You will not get the dictating of
Yeah.
even.
No, so she yeah, so this makes me so uncomfortable.
Okay. Also spiritually perilous is the notion of toasting with water. Doing so has been said to lead to death. This superstition prevails in the U.S. Navy, where toasting with water is essentially banned, as it dooms the toaster to a watery grave. That's the
Hmm.
first thing that popped up when I Googled it.
So you could toast with something non-alcoholic, just not water.
Maybe just not water.
Okay. Okay.
But I had
So
heard it, so there you go.
yeah. So what was I saying? I don't know.
Well, Teresa, it's just that Teresa
Oh,
is starting to chug. She's not chug,
yeah. Unfortunately,
not
Julian
willing.
is planning on betting Teresa whether she's willing or
Yeah,
not
yeah.
at this point, and he tells her, like you said, I'm willing to be convinced to take Ethan back into the family.
And that's all
And
she
then
needs
he
to hear.
continues to pressure her to drink,
Yeah.
and it's Teresa's doom, honestly.
And this is how it ends. She says Julian is using this to get to I this is I was Julian is using this to get Teresa to go to bed with him. And she says, I'm willing to spend the whole night trying to convince you. And that's the end of the week for Teresa and Julian.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get through some tough times ahead.
Yeah.
There's rough seas ahead, everybody, and
These are
it's
major.
stomach churning,
Yeah,
honestly.
these are major storylines. It's funny because, the wedding was a huge, like a monumental thing, but these next few things that are going to happen, it just sets up passions for years.
Yeah, what we're doing now is, so we did the first chunk of the story, and now we're moving into the new
Yeah,
era of the
yeah, it
story,
really is.
who and pushing everybody into their new storyline.
Yeah,
What's your new issue
yeah.
on all fronts?
Did,
So
I don't know in this section if you wanted to talk about Rebecca and Ivy have a huge discussion, and then Ivy and
Ivy and
Pilar have
Pilar.
huge.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about let's go ahead and talk about I didn't put Ivy and Rebecca's thing here, but we can
Oh,
throw it in.
I would just say it's very simple. Just to let you listeners know, it is a huge conversation with the two of them basically doing their thing to say who Mrs. Crane is, and it's just really good acting is why I wanted to talk about it. It's fun to watch the two of them go back and forth. They have some great barbs towards each other about how much, they talk about Jonathan Hotchkiss, which I really appreciated. Ivy's like, listen, I've seen you do this before when you stole Jonathan Hotchkiss away from Clarissa, whoever that is, probably somebody in their sorority. And she's like, and now you want to do it with Julian. Listen, you can have Julian. I don't care about that, but you're not taking away everything that I've built here. And so basically they go back and forth, Rebecca having these conversations about like your ass is out on the street, you'll have nothing, you'll be penniless. And it's like, again, I don't know in what world they all think that Ivy has nothing, because she would definitely have something from the Winthrop fortune. Like there's no mention of sisters or anything else. So like she's got stuff.
But
Um,
I do wonder if her loss of position would make it very hard for her societally. Like, yeah, she might still have money, but she has no position.
and that's what Rebecca's excited about. But it's so funny to me. It's like Rebecca, who is probably the least charitable person, is so excited to be about on these charities, to be a fake, to be phony, to
Yeah.
ride this societal like train to the top, and she could care
Yeah.
less about helping people.
She wants to wield as much power as she can.
Yes.
These women are essentially powerless. We're meant to believe that
Yeah.
they're basically powerless. They don't really have jobs. They have to rely on their husbands
Yeah.
or a wealthy benefactor. but in like those on the boards of charities, they have the power,
Yeah.
right? They don't have the power in their relationships. It's really unfortunate, actually. I also want to talk about we'll talk about Pilar in a second, but I want to say this one thing. Ivy catches up with Ethan before she talks to Pilar.
Oh yes.
And they talk about Ivy's marital woes, basically, more so than anything else. He spends time comforting her, even though his wedding just got called off. She really ruined it, but he spends a lot of time comforting her.
Yeah, he really does. He's just like, because she mentions that Ivy mentions that Rebecca is already talking about like kicking her out of the house, and he really gets upset for her. He's like, I can't, why would she do that? How can she do that? You know, it's messed up. And she was like, she can have him, I don't care. But Ethan says something really sweet, which is like, whatever impacts you impacts me. And she's like, you're a wonderful son. And then they finally have a conversation about Teresa, which we had an update about that.
So Ethan brings up Sam first. He says, you really still love Sam in spite of everything, despite the fact that you can never be with him because of his marriage, right? Like, you really love him. And she's like, yeah, I do. And he says, it's the same for me and Teresa. I love her despite everything. And she says, they're two totally different situations, which she's right. They are two very different situations. And she says, Teresa ruined both of our lives. He says she's innocent, yada, yada, right? But my favorite part was Ivy says to him, how could you want to marry a girl like that? And I went directly to West Side Story. A girl like that.
Will kill your brother. Forget that boy. Which is funny. Another. I don't know if you can see, but
I do see the Cheetah Rivera. I do see the Cheetah Rivera
right here in this book, and then Rita Moreno.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't see the Rita Moreno up there, but yeah, I saw the Cheetah first. Wow, yeah, because they both played Anita in West Side Story, right?
Yeah, so there you go. A boy like that who'll kill your brother. Forget that boy, and find
another. One of your own kind. Stick to your own kind.
Oh God,
oh my God.
Need to see you in the show. I need to see you in the show. And I know you're doing your like podcast voice, so God only knows what is. Yeah. Oh, that was good.
So yeah, all I could think was a girl like that would ruin your life. Forget that girl. I don't know.
Don't girl make like her that. Your wife.
Where yes, she won't make a wife. Yeah, absolutely. A girl like that would scan your letters.
A girl like that who's oh my God, that right there.
But anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know why. It just got me right. It got me into, because I love West Side Story. It's one of my favorite musicals. Yeah. Anyway, eventually she tells him she doesn't want to fight about Teresa, and they stop fighting about Teresa, and it, whatever. Let's talk about Ivy's talk with Pilar. This is a very good talk. I disagree with where we ended with it. But let's pick up on where we did. Ivy apologizes actually to Pilar first. She apologizes for hurting her, but tells her she still believes that Teresa is guilty. And then they argue about Teresa. Pilar stands 10 toes down. My daughter did not do this. And then she posits that maybe, perhaps, the people who have the most to gain from this did it, i.e. Gwen and Rebecca. And Ivy thinks about it for a minute.
Yes, and I was grateful for that. I was grateful that we gave the character not this like one motive thing, but she's like, well, you are right. They do have things to benefit from this. And she goes, I will give you that. I won't put it past Rebecca.
Yeah, but she doesn't go for it. In the end, she doesn't go for it. In the end, she's like, yeah, it could, maybe, but no, it's Teresa. Like, that's what happens.
Yeah, I wrote down, Ivy, how could you not run with that? She's just like, well, true, but doesn't do anything with that. I'm like, come on. If you were like hell-bent on finding out who sent the letter to the tabloid, like the letter to the tabloid, like why wouldn't you even just consider, like, this helps Rebecca also. This got you to not be Mrs. Crane as well. So this thing helped Rebecca.
Ivy's not doing it for me right now,
Oh,
to be
no.
frank.
And it's gonna
Um,
be like this for a long time too, because she's on this hate Teresa train and it won't go away.
Because then Pilar says to her, you know, I cannot ally with someone who hates my daughter.
Mhm.
I know you, Mrs. Crane. I know how you are, and I know that you will want revenge and you will want to hurt my daughter, and I will not allow it.
And Ivy
And
doesn't
she
say
says
no.
I can't leave my daughter open to more suffering. And you know,
And
again, kudos to Pilar.
yes. And Ivy doesn't say no. That's the other thing too. Ivy just listens
If
because
he
she
listens,
knows that Pilar is correct.
yeah. She says, how about this? I'll meet you halfway. This is Ivy. Ivy says, I'll meet you halfway. I won't stand in the way of Teresa and Ethan's love. I'll just let it run its course. And Pilar agrees to this, which,
Not right away. She thinks about it, but she does relent.
yeah, she agrees to it.
I can't imagine how hard it would be. Like, well, first of all, Pilar is a better friend to Ivy than Ivy will ever be to Pilar. That is a
mhm.
fact. I know that. I love their friendship. But you were the one that reminded me as I've been reviewing that it's very one-sided. I
Mhm.
know, I do know that Ivy cares for Pilar, but Pilar is still very much a domestic to Ivy. And she's
Yes.
classist, like you said.
She's extremely classist. And she
But
what I really dislike about this, I think, is that if it were me, if I was in Pilar's shoes, like I don't have kids, but like let's take Naya for example. If anybody was walking around yelling about how much Naya's such a bitch, conniving, scheming little bitch who, you know, deserves to die and I'm going to kill her, baby, there's no coming back from that.
no,
Like if Laura, my best friend, is walking around telling me to my face, Lanaya's such a bitch, girl, we are not friends anymore
no,
at
I,
all. No, I can't meet you halfway.
no. And that's what I'm like. I hate that it went this far because it's just like Pilar. I I I'm happy she stood up for Teresa, but it's so hard that she. But I think she knows better. I think she's saying what she needs to say to get past this because I know she's not gonna let her guard go. She will not let her guard down when Ivy's concerned with her daughter. She knows
Yeah.
full. She already said, "I already know how you are. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get revenge. Like you're."
Yeah.
And Ivy never says no. What she says is, "Let's make a truce," because I don't. She has nobody. Ivy has no one besides Ethan, and even then, Ethan's head is in the clouds. Ethan's not. Well, no, he's better now, but he's Ethan's primary concern is going to be Teresa, and so Ivy has nobody. Not a single. She really has no one. Grace has Eve and Pilar. I mean, like so many people. You know, Kay has Simone. Kay has. I mean, like there's other people who have somebody. Ivy has not a single person.
Yeah, Ivy has doesn't have a soul, and
Yeah.
maybe well, Ivy does have a soul. I should be careful how I say that. Like,
Yes, because in passions it means something.
yeah, it means a little something a little bit different, doesn't it? I mean, Ivy, there's not a soul that cares about Ivy, basically. But yeah, she doesn't have a friend if she doesn't have Pilar. And again, like I said before, their relationship is very, very, very one-sided. She is so dependent on Pilar. She
And it makes me
really
sad.
is.
I've told y'all before, like the rewatch has made me see how bad this friendship is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I remembered it very differently because of the confidant, like and hidden passions. I mean, like everything. Pilar and Ivy are a huge duo, and this really strains it, and it doesn't come back from this either.
As well, it shouldn't. If
Yeah, I
if
agree.
Ivy can't ever get over her hate of Teresa, then no, we can't be
Yeah.
friends.
No, that's the thing that frustrates me the most is like she is your confidant, like the person you trust your life with, but you're not going to hear her out when she tells you, "I promise you my kid wouldn't do this." Like, wouldn't you give your ally not at like confidant is the best word. You're a pal and a confidant. The Golden
I,
Girl said it.
yeah.
Like you would have to listen to Pilar and just know that Pilar wouldn't bullshit you about her kid. Because you know what? There are a lot of parents out there who'll be like, hey, I know who I got. I know who I got. I'm always like that. My family, I know who I got. You don't talk about them. Don't talk about them. I
Right.
know who I got. You let me say it. I said, but even this is like Pilar's telling you she wouldn't do this. Also, Pilar gave you other people to consider, and you went, and did nothing with that information.
Yeah, see, the way this storyline should have gone is that Pilar and Ivy team up to investigate this. Like that
Yeah.
they team up and they figure it, try at least try to figure it out. You know what I mean? Even if they do the trying to figure out and all roads still lead to Teresa, I would at least appreciate that Ivy put in the effort for her friend to try and investigate what really happened. You
Well,
know?
and it's like Pilar said about what Louise said. Whenever somebody does a crime, it's usually somebody who has the most to gain. And when she said that, who has the most to gain? Teresa loses a lot. Teresa
Yeah.
doesn't get anything out of this. But
Yeah.
who gets something is Gwen breaks them up, and Rebecca ousts Ivy as Mrs. Julian Crane.
Yeah.
They have
No.
the most to win out of this.
They have
But
so little. The like Teresa has so
get nothing
little. She
out of
gets
Ethan having
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Nobody gets anything out of it but Gwen and Rebecca. And the only reason Gwen isn't really getting anything out of it right now is because Ethan is still kind of like, no, Teresa didn't do this. But
Yeah.
I mean, ugh, yeah, it's frustrating. It's irritating. I'm gonna stop harping on it because it's
Yes.
not gonna
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. But I will say, good acting from the two of them. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Ivy and Rebecca, Ivy and Pilar, great acting from the two. I love duet acting like that.
Yeah.
They are listening and having a conversation, listening and conversing with one another. And again, acting's my bread and butter. This is what I do. And so when I watch them have conversations and like talk to each other, I don't fast forward any of that. I'm like
Yeah.
watching them have talk. They're
Yeah.
throwing the tennis ball back and
Yeah,
forth.
volleying back and forth.
Not to make a Whitney Russell
They're
reference.
they're very good together. Absolutely. Ivy, Pilar, Ivy, and Eve. I love seeing
Oh,
them
give me an Ivy and
act
Eve.
with each other. Yeah.
Ivy and Eve scene any day. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's juice. It's always gonna have juice.
Yeah, so that's basically it for that whole
Yep.
storyline. And Teresa, this plan. This plan is the worst plan. Cause again, why wouldn't you just ask Ethan, hey, do you want to be a crane again? Have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? How would you feel about being a crane again before you go do all this bullshit?
Because at this point, Ethan has seen that father and grandfather are assholes. So
Yeah.
why would you sign up for that anymore? Yes, I know it comes with millions of dollars, but they cut you out. Joey Glad Joey Gladstone cut you
It
out
out. Yeah.
so fast. They didn't even blink. Julian a little bit, but like, so hey, yeah, you're right. Have a conversation. Say, hey, would you want to be a crane again? Again, what's funny is I wrote this down in my notes, and I'm just gonna say it. Uh, this is an awful plan for Teresa, but it's funny because it's exactly Rebecca's plan. But I actually think Rebecca can make that happen. I think Rebecca could, maybe not where Alistair's concerned, because even Teresa brings it up to Julian and says, I wanted to ask you first, which again, there was more innuendo here. She's like, I wanted to go to you first before I went to Alistair. And he's like, are you going to fuck my dad? Like,
Rebecca did. It's not unheard of.
so he's confused, but she went to him first. And so we all know the buck stops with Alistair, but I do think Rebecca could make Julian have Ethan become a crane again. It's still a stupid plan, but I think the feasibility of it lies on Rebecca, not Teresa. This is a horrible plan for Teresa. She has no power when it comes to this stuff, and it's gonna be very evident very soon.
Yeah, I don't know that Rebecca could do any better of a job than Teresa could because Alistair has the power. Julian
what I'm
actually
saying.
has
I know the
zero
book stops.
power.
Yeah, the buck stops with Alistair.
So
If
this
you can't,
whole plan is so silly, and the fact that, and I'm going to say this too. These women do a lot of things that they're saying, I'm doing this for you, Ethan, or I'm doing this for Ethan. They don't even say it to him. This is a thing, I'm doing this for Ethan. All that Gwen says that she's sending the letter to the tabloid, it's really for Ethan to save him from Teresa. Teresa's going off to Bermuda to reinstate Ethan as a crane for Ethan, but it's really for Teresa to like try to assuage her guilt. It's like you're doing these things for him, but you never even get his consent.
yeah,
And
no.
and this is the beginning of a long line of Gwen and Teresa doing all kinds of shady ass shit behind Ethan's back and saying they're doing it for him. They do it for the entire series from this point on. And I was just thinking, I was like, they never even have a conversation with the man and ask him what he wants. They never ask him what he wants. They just say, this is what Ethan needs.
Hey, also, just so you know, like we watch what you all do on social media, on Instagram, a couple people were having like this like full-on conversation.
They were going in. One of our patrons, Dustin, was in there. I just was reading, girl. I just had my popcorn. They were going back and forth about Gwen and Teresa and who did what and why they did it. And I'm all for it. I love the discourse. I love the discourse. I was just going through like liking each one because like everybody's got valid points. The thing is, everybody's got valid points, and whether you're Team Teresa, Team Gwen, there's valid points to be made on both sides. There really are. As much as I am loathed to give Gwen any credit on anything, there are valid points to be made on both sides. I do agree on that front, and so I love to see the discourse.
The conversation. That's so fun. Interact with those posts, y'all, because it's fun. It's cool.
And it helps people find the show because it pushes it to more people. So the more people interact with the post, the more the post gets shown to more people. But let's move on. I'm sorry, I got bogged down with Teresa and Ivy and these ladies. Lord Jesus, they're stressing me out. Let's talk about Grace. We got to talk about Grace, y'all. We got to talk about Grace, y'all. We got to talk about Grace. My God, these women are going to give me a heart attack. These women they stress me out and it's running my blood pressure up. I swear it is. So, first of all, Sam tells Grace and Eve he wants to give David a lie detector test, a polygraph test. And I'm thinking, sure, fine, police work. Especially early 2000s, that's definitely a very early 2000s thing. Brings David out.
Say something like lie detector test person. Someone's going to administer it from Harmony PD.
Yeah.
That's what
maybe a cop, maybe somebody in a suit, somebody we've never seen before. They bring David out, they sit him down at a desk, and the person administering the test is none other than Dr. Eve Russell. Why? That shit blew me. I was like, what the fuck? What is Eve? What is Eve giving the polygraph test? Not only is she the medical examiner, right? Because that's like, and that makes sense. It makes sense for her to be the medical examiner. She's a doctor. It makes more sense than this. It doesn't make a ton of sense because she's also just like a general practitioner. So she really shouldn't be the medical examiner. That's a very specific field, but she's the medical examiner. Then she also is apparently the psychiatrist, the prison psychiatrist. And now we're learning she also is the town polygraph test giver, the administrator.
Eve is all the ologists. She's a gynecologist. She's a proctologist. She's an anesthesiologist. And she also sings the blues.
Also sings the blues. She does it all.
Yeah, she can do it all. Eve can do it all. But you know what's so funny is all week, the stress on her face.
This show, I'm sorry, y'all. I love Passions. I love Passions. This show is goofy as hell for this shit. This show is goofy for this shit. Why the fuck all of these extras walking around? Why couldn't you? You know what? Instead of Teresa having that conversation with that random woman, she could have given the test. You see what I'm saying? That actress could have given the test. That would have made sense. That I would have gotten down with that. This lady, is her job to give polygraph tests. So she's here. But no, we have Eve doing it. So Eve gives the test. David, of course, passes the test. Grace thinks that's it. He's my husband. Sam does not accept it. He's like, that's some bullshit. There's actually plenty of people.
I swear,
Of people.
At this point, if David farted, she would have been like, that's it. He's my husband.
He's my husband.
I remember that fart. I don't remember anything but the sound of that fart.
Sam says plenty of people know how to fake it on a polygraph test. It's not conclusive. Then why did we do it? Then why did you do this?
But that's the whole week. That was all last week. That was this week. That Sam keeps giving him tests and he keeps passing them and he still won't believe them. And again,
let me be clear. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say again, I'm happy that Sam is doing it, but at some point it gets annoying because it keeps getting debunked. It keeps getting,
Sam is acting like a MAGA Republican looking for something to prove that Trump won the election. That is what is happening here. Because no matter what you put in front of him, he doesn't believe it. He's like, it's not true. It's not real. He's you know what confirmation bias is?
Yeah.
When you have something that you believe and you find something that you actively search for something that confirms your own bias. And that's what's happening with Sam right now. Yeah. And so he's gotten the polygraph test. It comes back that, of course, he passes it. Sam doesn't believe it. Then he's like, you know what? There should be, if he really is married to you, Grace, there should be a record of it at the place where your marriage certificate was filed in Hartford, Connecticut.
Which is what this podcast was saying about 4 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. So then he calls over to Hartford. Hey man, I'm looking for a marriage certificate. Can y'all fax the record over to me? Or if you don't have it, fax me and let me know that you don't have it. So just the fax, man. Yeah. And so we get this fax coming through. And he sees the first page and there's nothing on it. And as the next page is coming out, he's like, I'm going to go get David before we look at the results because he needs to be here. I want to see the look on his face. Boy, this didn't make any sense. Just look at the paper, Sam. Just look at the paper. You're about to embarrass yourself.
Yeah. Why would anybody do that? Why would you? I'm going to go. That's how cocky I am. Also, first, just a quick little tidbit. David Hastings, incredible artist, did a really nice etching of Grace.
Yes, he sketched out Grace, and it was way better. If y'all remember, it was way better than the sketch that, what was his name? Not Frank Abagnale Jr., Lomax. Frank Lomax did of Teresa in the early days. If y'all remember the Teresa sketch, and we were all like, "What the fuck is that?"
It was good.
No, his sketch of Grace was amazing. Yeah. No, he's truly an artist. But yeah, Sam's like, I'm gonna go get him so that he is here when we tell him that there's nothing and Hartford has no record of y'all's marriage. So he brings David out. He pulls the fax off, looks at it, face just drops. Grace says, "What does it say?" And he just hands it to Grace. And she's like, "He's my husband. It says we're married. It says it right here." Sam, and then that's, of course, David is like, I told you. Sam then says, "I still don't believe it. That can be forged. Anybody could forge a signature." And then I don't know who it was that said this. I think it was David. He was like, "It's got her middle name." Oh, no, it's Grace. Grace says, "It's got my middle name on it," which even I didn't know. Girl, if you didn't know, somebody could put anything there.
Yeah.
We could have put anything there. My name could have been there. You would have been like, "Oh, my middle name's LeTara.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that." No, because you
So
have
there's
amnesia.
Yeah, so there's several things about this. First, one, Eve and Grace have a conversation, and I wish they would go down this route instead of this other route that it's like I have to honor my first marriage. No, you don't. I know that church and religion is huge on this, but the thing that should be guiding Grace is what Eve says. She says, "You wouldn't be normal if you didn't wonder about the first half of your life." That is the storyline they should be leaning into. That her curiosity is getting her attracted to David. That makes sense to me. This other one, it's a little too much. It doesn't make any sense. It's unfair to Grace, who lost her memory. I just don't think anybody would punish her for having been married before and not remembering it. So that drives
Mm-hmm.
me a little crazy. Second, this marriage certificate has some weird ass information on it. First of all, yes, it says Grace's middle name is Grace Marie Hastings, which she used to sign her name that all the time. She loved her middle name, which is a random fact. I mean, I like my middle name, but I don't ever say I love my middle name. I
What is your middle? Actually, you know what? Let's take a stop here. Pit stop. What is your middle name? I love my middle name too,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, so first of all, this is always a great like icebreaker thing for me when people are like, "How did you get your name?" First of all, my dad is Juan Vera. My mom is Celia Vera. My brother is Juan Rolando Vera, and I am Eric Andrew. One of these things is not
It's
like the
not like
other.
the other. Yeah.
Um, So my brother and I were 10 years apart, and so when my mom was considering my name, this is disgusting. Google these things. I am named after Garbage Pail Kids,
Oh,
which were ugly little nasty ripoffs of Cabbage Patch
Cabbage
Kids.
Patch. Yeah, I
And they
remember.
were trading cards that kids would collect in the 80s. And
Hmm.
I'm named after an Eric and an Andrew Garbage Pail Kid.
Well,
And my
they're
mom,
nice names.
well, they work together to create Eric and Druvetta. But yeah, so that's how I got my middle name. And that's my middle name, Andrew.
Oh,
And
oh,
my
that's nice.
aunt always shares a story that she would tell my brother, "Oh, you're getting two little brothers." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" Because she would always say Eric and Drew.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's so cute. No, my middle name's Deshawn, which I like.
Ooh, I like
But
that. No,
yeah, LeTara Deshawn.
that's
But
cool.
my name, first of all, my dad's name is Randall, and he wanted to name me Randa Demetria. Can you imagine Randa? I would have changed my name myself.
Yeah.
Randa? That's what he wanted to
Well,
name me, but
and it's
at
funny
like at
because
the 11th hour,
Yeah,
huh?
Teresa had a conversation with Rando.
Yeah, no, I'd be the Randa. Um, in the 11th hour, my mom decided to name me LeTara because I actually have a cousin named LeTara that I've never met. Like, she's much older than me, and on my dad's side, I don't know her, but my mom heard her name one time and like loved it, and so she named me LeTara. So my
Well,
name's LeTara Deshawn. LeTara Deshawn Lee. All right, back to passion. Sorry,
well,
y'all. Not sorry.
no,
You're welcome.
yeah, I was gonna say my mom has one too. I'm always appreciative of this, but it's sad. Is that she was going to be named Lourdes, which is there's nothing wrong with that name. It's just
I
weird
like
to
that name.
well, it's weird to think of my mom because my mom is Celia, but she was named after an aunt named Celia because she had passed away. So her name
Mm.
got changed. So it's always interesting how names come about. But Grace Marie Hastings
Grace
is
Marie Hastings.
her marriage certificate, but also her blood type. Is blood
Mhm.
type on a marriage certificate?
I believe
I know
what
that.
they are alluding to is, and I don't think they do this in places as much anymore, but people used to have to get blood tested to be able to get married, which they actually
Yeah,
talked about
I
this
do.
on the show when
Okay.
Teresa and Ethan were getting married.
Okay.
So, like early on when they were trying to get their marriage certificate, they had to go to the hospital and get their blood tests. And But yeah, people used to have to do that. I don't think they have to do that anymore, but yeah, I think that might be something that you might find. I don't know. I've never been
I don't
married,
know. I've never
but
been.
that might be something you find on somebody's marriage certificate. I don't know. It does seem like an odd thing to be there, but
Put there, but maybe. Okay.
I think it has something to do with like making sure y'all aren't brother and sister. Like I do. I think it's to like make sure y'all aren't like closely related relatives.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, the marriage certificate comes through. Sam's not buying it. He's like, no, this could be forged. I don't believe anything. He says to Grace at one point that in over 20 years that they've been together, that she used to be worried that something from her past would come up, but in over 20 years nothing has. Doesn't it seem odd that it would happen now? And then he says, even with your amnesia, if you were married, you would still have a memory of a bond, of a commitment and devotion to your husband. Do you not understand what the word amnesia means, sir? What do you mean she would still have a memory? She obviously doesn't have the memory.
Yeah.
She doesn't remember shit.
I think we like to believe that something sticks around, that something's in there somewhere, but you can't force that underlying thing to still be there. I mean, that's the whole point of this thing that happens, that is a rarity, or I don't know. I don't know the science behind this, so I won't misspeak, but I don't know anybody who's ever suffered from it. But it is a trope in a stereotype in soap operas. I will say that. So we are led to believe that it wipes you clean. I have seen accounts where things can jog back your memory, but she's not getting anything. And he keeps, and to Sam's credit, every time David's like, don't you remember? Aren't you remembering this? Like, he even explains the day of their wedding, a beautiful spring day in the church we went to every Sunday. Our friend Jack was our witness. He tied cans to our car. You were
And
so
where the fuck
upset.
is Jack? Where is Jack? Call Jack. You need a witness. Bring in your witnesses, please, sir, so we can vet them.
Giving a lot of detail, but that's typical of a con artist, right? Like, that you have those stories ready to go. You have all this information, but where are the papers? Where are the witnesses? You are correct.
Yeah. So, yes, he gives all of these memories of their wedding day, and Sam says, I'm gonna call the Hartford, Connecticut people and make sure that this is all on the up and up, that this record is correct and it really came from them. Yes, it did. They call and say, yes, this is from us. That's that. As far as we can tell, this record is absolutely authentic.
Confirmed.
And so it's all right now. There's no reason to believe that this man is not Grace's first husband. None. Not for us, not for them. There's just no reason to believe that this is not true. And then he says, oh, what? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. Yeah. No, you're good.
I was just going to say, so now that we've basically decided or come to the conclusion, even though Sam's still not there yet, but everybody else has come to the consensus. Even Eve says,
Eve
look,
is
Sam,
like, it's over.
Yeah, even Eve says, call it. Yeah, call it. Time of death.
Yeah, Eve is the queen of sedatives and just giving up on people.
Time of death. Oh my God, call it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's so funny to me. Oh God, okay. Because honey, this is the beginning of the
stressed out more than Eve has been more stressed out than Grace and Sam. Just so y'all know, the face, the acting, and I'm not making fun of the acting. The acting's great, but like she's got it all on her chest, man, y'all. Eve is like, my poor friends, man. This is awful. This sucks, and it's all on her face.
I do have a question. I'm not gonna spoil anything really. I just wonder. Does Eve at this point know what's going on?
I feel like, so I don't want to spoil anything either. I do feel like Eve knows something that we don't know. if I
I
remember.
do too. If I remember correctly, I think Eve actually knows what's happening here. Like what's
So
going
this would
on.
make
And
sense.
again, I'm not going to
And
spoil
again,
anything, but
I'm giving Passions a lot of credit because Passions doesn't often think ahead. Passions goes with the flow. Passions doesn't think too far ahead.
yeah.
But it would make sense for the amount of, like, I tell you, for those of you who are not watching with us but are listening with us, if I could explain to you the amount of hurt and pain that is in Eve's face, like she is acting like this is her own secret. But
Yeah.
that's how good that actress is. I mean, I marvel at her. She's so good.
Yeah. Okay. So, at finally after we decide that David is in fact Grace's husband, this man has the audacity, the unmitigated fucking gall to say, "You need to release me. I've committed no crime." You've
Oh,
committed no crime.
I have in my notes.
You've committed several felonies. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I had in my notes LeTara's about to go into David because this is bullshit. This is not like, I hate the logic behind this
He
because
says,
should at
yeah,
least have one win this week, and it is that this man committed a crime. He did
he
commit a crime.
absolutely committed multiple crimes. Multiple crimes. So he says, I didn't kidnap Grace. I was reuniting with my wife. Um, Sir, no the fuck you were not. And also, oh, and Grace co-signs this bullshit, which
Oh, I
pissed
know, which
me
is
off.
frustrating. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Pissed me off. Grace says he's right. Eve also co-signs this man's BS. She's like, yeah, he couldn't have known about Grace's amnesia.
How
So
can you
he didn't
abduct your
know.
own wife? People do that all the time. Just
Well,
so you
no
know.
one here has a clear understanding of the law, first
Yeah.
of all, which Sam's the chief of police. The chief of police, if he lets this man go, I would never feel safe in this town. You see what I'm saying? Like, you don't know how the law works, and you are supposed to be the chief of police.
Yeah.
So, because let me remind everybody right now of a very jarring statistic, which is that most women who are murdered by their husbands and partners, domestic partners. Most women who are beaten, abused, kidnapped, any kind of violent crime that occurs against a woman, most of those perpetrators are their husbands and their spouses, or husband and spouse, same thing, and their domestic partners.
Because also,
That
yeah.
so
So,
he's if Grace goes missing, and before David even came into the purview of our story here, if Grace were to go missing, Sam would be the number one suspect. Sam would be, because he's her husband.
that's logically how it goes.
So, of course, just because this man was legally married to Grace does not mean that it makes it legal now for him to break into Tabitha's house. First of all,
That's
for him to
that's the
stalk
one.
her.
That's what I had ready to go. Was that you
Well,
broke an entry? Yeah.
and he was stalking her before that. He's walking around and scaring her, and she doesn't know who he is. So
So we
he's
got two
stalking her.
already. Stalking,
Then he
breaking into the
breaks into
Lennox
Tabitha's house. And then when he sees Grace and she passes out, he picks her up and takes her to a different location, which is absolutely kidnapping. This
abduction.
woman,
Yeah.
and I don't give a fuck if he didn't understand that she didn't have amnesia, because every time she saw him, she would be like, who the fuck are you? Or she would be scared, and she would pass out. She would be overwhelmed. So there's no way he didn't know she was scared of him. I don't give a fuck if you don't know she doesn't have amnesia. It is never right or okay for you to abduct another person. I don't give a fuck who they are to you. It's ridiculous. It's
That
ridiculous.
alone is frustrating because it's like, Sam, if you can't get her on 3 that we just gave you, the first one is she broke into Tabitha's house. You can get him for that and then keep him there. So don't give us, and it's you are correct. It is annoying that Eve and Grace give him, like, they side with David. And I'm like,
Well,
it's
it's
frustrating.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous because Sam pushes back saying, no, I need to investigate more. Correct. Yes, you do need to investigate more. He says, I need to investigate more. All right, Sam, good job. And then he says, so I'm not going to release you. And then David says, well, I'll sue you for false arrest. Try, motherfucker. I am the law in this town.
Much like Louise last week, Sam
Yeah.
Bennett is the police. He
That's
is
crazy
the
to me.
police.
That's crazy to me. As much shit as they get away with bullshit that they do, and you really gonna let this man go? I'll sue you. You okay? Do your best. Try to sue me. But this is my town, baby.
Yeah.
This is my town, baby. So but then Grace pulls Sam aside and is like, no, Sam, you really need to let him go because he could sue you and this could really ruin your career. And then Sam says, well, I could keep him here if you file charges against him. She refuses to do so. This girl sucks. I'm sorry. Great. This is the turn, y'all. I told y'all like 2 weeks ago, we're moving into the era of everybody hates Grace. We're moving in that direction. And I think we are firmly getting there because she does not agree to press charges against David to keep him in jail. She wants, and on one hand, I do understand her wanting to get to know him and figure out what it is that he knows about her past because she truly believes that he was her husband at this point. Fair, but he seems dangerous. And every time you see him, he scares you. Shouldn't you listen to your heart? Shouldn't you listen to your heart on this point? And also, he absolutely committed at least three crimes. At least three crimes. I mean, come on. Hell, resisting arrest too. Didn't he fight with Sam? Like when Sam found him. So add that to the list. 4. So whatever. She sucks. She says that she comes to David's defense saying his first instinct was to rescue her when she passed out. Girl, what are you talking about? What? And then Eve says, yes, the law is on David's side. Again, I am the law. I am the law, Eve. So shut the fuck up. Get out of my station. Take your polygraph with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing. Thanks for nothing, by the way.
Polygraph, take it home.
Thanks for nothing, by the way. And get the fuck out of here, because you helped 0%, Eve.
Yeah.
Dr. Eve. So everybody's against Sam at this point.
Yeah.
Sam then unlocks this man's handcuffs and lets him free to be a menace in Harmony. Yeah. Okay.
And it makes me laugh too because Grace leaves. She runs into Pilar and is like, I've been married before. Like, what a weird thing.
Oh, I wrote it down because I feel like it might be this week's title. It was so good. Yeah. So yeah, first of all, before Grace gets to the church, Sam says like we need to talk about this, and she says to him, "I really need to be alone." Fair. She needs some time to think, and I get that. She says she needs to be alone. Eve tries to convince David to leave town. She says, like, just leave. And he's like, no, hell no. I've been searching for her for 20 years, and now I finally found her. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. So Grace goes over to the church where she finds Pilar. And she said, as soon as she sees Pilar, she just like falls into her arms, sobbing. And she says, Pilar, I have another husband. I'm not married to Sam. Yeah. I love it.
Can you imagine Pilar's dealing like, I don't know where my daughter is. I just had a weird conversation with my best friend. And then this other lady comes and says what you just said to her.
Ugh. I'm not married to Sam. Yeah, Pilar's she's doing the bulk of the emotional labor for all these white ladies. Like, that's what she does. It's what she does. She doesn't parent her children, but she can definitely carry the load for these white ladies, these middle-class white ladies.
I can't wait to tell my mom that. She's going to like that. She's going to laugh because, yeah, that's Pilar's function right now.
Basically. All right, let's finish it up. You have anything to add to that? I don't.
Not to them. it it was grueling to watch the back and forth. Is he not he? Who is he? Which we? I hated it. So it was grueling.
I didn't hate it as much as I wanted to hate it. But yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, and it just became ridiculous at a certain point.
Yeah, that's what it
Like
was. That's really
the
what it was.
polygraph, it got
Yeah,
ridiculous around the polygraph test, but and it just got worse from there.
yeah.
But all right, let's move on to magic. Let's talk about these kids on Warlock Island and Norma, crazy ass Norma running amok. Timmy and Tabitha on the island as well. Love Island. It's not Love
Yeah.
Island, y'all. It's Warlock Island. But Kay wants it to be Love Island. Kay wants it to be Rape Island. Let's be clear. You can laugh. It's okay. That's what she's doing, and it's unfortunate. It's Sexual Assault Island for Kay.
Oh my God.
This girl, Jesus Christ, this girl. And my thing with Kay is, because while I am still firmly Team Kay, she just has no imagination.
Yeah,
You know?
they're not giving her enough credit. Where this girl can come up with stuff on her own to be going these other routes is really stupid. It's really dumb.
Yeah, it
But
is stupid.
but yes, I am still Team K, and it's because I had a crush on Charity, but I'm still Team K.
It's time for magic.
Warlock Island.
Norma, Warlock Island. These children, these unattended children on an island. So take it away, Eric.
Okay, let's see. Okay, first of all, again, my notes are in like 8 different places. But we are on Norma is going to fillet Tabitha and Timmy.
Mm-hmm.
They end up on the boat. Again, something really funny is that this is pretty much the plot of Jason Takes Manhattan. They Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Is
Is
that
that
the name of that movie? Is that truly the
uh-huh.
name?
Yeah, well,
Jason Takes Manhattan?
yes. So it was a really exciting time for horror movies in that Jason was going to get out of Camp Crystal Lake and he was going to end up in Manhattan. So in 1989, Friday the 13th, part 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan. And so Jason Voorhees leaves Camp Crystal Lakes, gets on a boat, Camp Crystal Lake, gets on a boat and starts murdering people on the boat. So this is basically the same plot. Norma has gotten on the boat with the kids and Tabitha and Timmy and is going to try and kill Tabitha and Timmy on their way to Warlock Island. So if I could
Yeah.
ever take things from one movie to a next, it's this one. Um, Norma's gonna try and fillet them. Again, it is so funny to watch Charity say that pain and suffering is coming to Tabitha and her doll. Um,
Yeah.
they again, Norma tries to give them the axe. Tabitha calls her a Lizzie Borden wannabe, which is really, really
Mm-hmm.
cute. Timmy says it's time to abandon ship. Their goal is to try and stay on the boat, let Norma think that they got off there and leave. They're trying to figure out what's the worst way to die. Do we stay on Warlock Island where these warlocks are mad at Tabitha? Or do they follow through with Norma? And they are going to go talk to the captain and say, hey, we screwed up. We were on this boat. We didn't mean to be on this boat. Can you take us just back to Harmony? And captain's gone. It ends up being Norma. And so they have to make a choice. Do they stay on the boat with Norma and try and risk it? Or do they get off on the island? And they get off on Warlock Island.
Okay. I was deeply, deeply confused by
Yeah.
this sequence of events. I
Yes,
was
it was very confusing.
really confused by the sequence of events. Is that what happened? Because I have in my notes that Tabitha and Timmy make a plan while they're on the boat on the way to Warlock Island. You know what? We can just wait till the boat docks and we'll ask the captain
Yeah.
to take us back to Harmony with him. That we got on by mistake. So then they get to the captain's quarters, open the door, and yes, it is Norma there. She's wielding her axe. And then The next thing that happens is that Timmy and Tabitha are on the beach. There
So
is
where?
no in between. What
Yeah,
happened?
I
So I
think
thought maybe that was a dream. I thought maybe
yes.
Timmy had thought that up.
At some point, Timmy has a dream of what the events were, and it ends up that Tabitha and Timmy are on the island now. They just didn't do a really good job of making those transitions clear to us because I had the same confusion. Also, just for y'all to know, Norma looks like Georgie from It. She's wearing a yellow raincoat, like literally
Some
looks like Georgie from It.
somebody in the watch party, I think it was Maria, said they looked like Gordon's fishermen, the fish
Yes,
sticks. The fish sticks box. I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what she looks
that's
like.
really
Absolutely.
funny.
She looks like a fish sticks box.
Yeah, we
Um,
get a lot of off with their heads. Norma misses their head. Father keeps telling Norma, chop them up and feed them to the fish. It's all a dream. Tabitha and Timmy are on the island, and now they got to deal with the fact that they're on the island. Um, then we got to deal with Ross's annoying ass for the rest of this week, and it's really annoying. I God, that he annoyed me back then. He annoys me today.
that's
And
so
I will
funny.
probably
Yeah.
he's Ross. He is Ross.
Yeah. You always call him Ross, and I love
Oh,
that for you.
yeah. Yeah, he's Ross because Tabitha says he's Ross, and I know it pisses him off, so I'm gonna say it too.
Oh yeah, we're Team Tabitha all the way,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well,
Obvi.
and it's so like he really has a hard on for trying to get Tabitha to be a witch. Like of all the kids could care less about Tabitha, which I find really funny. Like they're just like kooky old lady, and they actually like Charity, Miguel, like they're actually like just let her do her thing, like let her be weird.
Miguel literally says, "Yeah,
Yeah,
let her be a weird old lady. Stop
yeah,
being mean to her. Like calling
yeah.
her a witch is mean,"
Which
is
I
what he
actually praised
says.
Miguel. I was like, hey, Miguel got something other than being an asshole to Charity. And I mean that by like him always saying that Charity's stupid and wrong and shouldn't be thinking shit that she's thinking.
I got a
But
lot of thoughts on Charity and Miguel this week, and
okay.
Kay.
Well, good. We'll get there. Basically, Tabitha makes it clear that she ends up there, and they're kind of like, "What are you doing here?" Which I did write in my notes. Like, isn't it funny? Like, can you imagine going on like a teen hangout trip, and your weird, wacky neighbors showed up? Like, that is kind of weird. Like, it's funny. But she says, hey, I've decided, like I felt like maybe y'all needed a chaperone, so I decided to join you all. Again, Tabitha's just trying to figure out a way to be as close to people so that she doesn't have to deal with Norma while she's got to deal with these warlocks, which again, you can poke holes in the warlock logic if you want to.
Well, a few things here. First of all, she thinks that if she's with the kids, because there will be witnesses, Norma won't attack her. My
And so
question
far
is,
that's true.
why doesn't Norma kill everybody?
That's what
You know
I
what I
that's
mean?
what I was like, why does Norma care who these people are? Like kill everybody. But
She's like
so
obsessed
far,
with killing Tabitha and Timmy, but like
yeah.
she's a murderer. She's a murderess
Yeah,
herself.
and she's
So
killing other people. So she's even scared the boys in the basement. So who is she afraid of?
yeah,
Nobody.
kill Tabitha, Timmy, and all the kids in
We
their
sound
sleep.
like fathers, just so we all know.
I,
We do sound like fathers.
yeah.
Kill everybody, Norma. Kill everybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I don't condone it, and I don't want her to. That's not what I want her to do. I just don't
but
understand how, like,
logically, you would assume that Norma wouldn't care and just do it.
I could
Um,
see if we weren't. I could see if we were back in harmony, and she
well,
was
and
like, "It's
specifically
too
the
many
chief
people,
of
too many
police, like
witnesses."
I'm not dealing with
Yeah,
Sam killing Louise, like, but no, she's on an
but on
island.
this island,
Yeah, who cares?
yeah, who
But
cares?
so I sound like Joy Behar. So what? Who cares?
So what?
Uh,
Who cares?
yeah, big deal. But what happened? So when she does that, Ross keeps calling Tabitha's name out, and when that happens, we do hear like a wail of pain. We hear these like moans, and we are led to believe that these are the spirits or the warlocks, the spirits of the warlocks or the warlocks that are inhabiting this island. And again, you can poke your holes if you'd like.
Here's my thing. Here's my issue. I can't really talk about this because the magic is not true. Is never explained. I
Yeah.
don't understand what it is that Tabitha is actually afraid of, because again, she said she sent them off to another dimension. How can they hurt you? And I also, when I heard the sounds, the rumblings on this island, it made me think of, did you ever watch Lost?
Yeah.
It
It's been a
reminds me very much of the shadow monster on
okay.
Lost, and I feel like they ripped that directly from
Well,
Passions. As I was watching, I was like, this feels very like they pulled this from Passions and put it in Lost.
and
So
for me, if it makes any sense for anybody else, to me, maybe I'm thinking it's like the upside down in Stranger Things. Like maybe they are there, but we can't like Tabitha sent them
yeah,
to the upside down. Like then that would make sense to me. But the writers really messed up because they told us Tabitha gave them the wrong scepters and basically destroyed them. So then why would Tabitha work? Like you've said this. This is your thing verbatim. Is it's like, why are we worried about Tabitha going back to this island? If they would have said like Tabitha sent them to another dimension, but they are still very much present on this island, then it makes sense why Tabitha wouldn't want to go back. At one point, Tabitha and Timmy have a conversation, and he brings up again, "Do you have any friends?" And she
yeah.
struggles. She's
She's
like,
like,
"Well,
there's, well, there's you.
yeah," and
And
that
he's
was
like,
so.
yeah, it was sweet. It was
And he's
sweet.
like, and he says, and always will be. I got you. We're good. But every time Ross calls out to Tabitha, these noises come out. Tabitha says, I am not, I don't care if you say my name, but I feel like you're scaring the woodland creatures that are here. Um, she says, you young people deserve a chaperone, so I will be here. Which is funny because Miguel says, oh my God, the last time you were our chaperone, no offense, but we almost all died.
Yeah, which is
Which
true.
he's talking about them in like this is the
The
cavern,
mine shaft.
the mine
Yeah,
shaft with Hecuba. Um,
yeah,
the Tabitha also says that the warlocks might get to people and like make the people like kind of like magnify who they
yeah,
are. She says they might get to Kay, they might get to Norma. If they get to Norma, Norma will be even more violent than she already is. So Tabitha's saying like we got to be careful, especially with somebody like that or somebody like Kay.
yeah.
Um, uh, Tabitha said something like, "Oh, they keep moaning," um, and that's what's going on with them. At the same point, Charity is having all of these premonitions, these visions, these
Okay,
things about what's going to happen
let's
to Sheridan and Teresa.
yeah, let's pick up with these children, because the Norma and Tabitha stuff, it's fun to watch. It's not as fun for me to talk about because there's nothing
Yeah,
happening.
it's
There's
it's another
nothing
week of
happening.
them
It's
running around.
visual. There's a lot of visual gags. There's a lot of camp. It's a lot of fun to watch. Talking about it, it's hard for me to capture the magic for y'all and
Yeah,
say like, because there's nothing actually happening. But with these children, Lord Jesus. So yeah, first let's talk about Kay. Kay has gone back to her like original plan that now she's not going to be good anymore, I guess. Last I checked, she was like, I'm going to let fate do its thing. And I believe that Charity will die on this island, which is still in play here. They still bring that up, that she thinks that this story about the two cousins, one with superpowers or the power to see the future, are in love with the same boy, and the one who can see the future dies on the island and the other two get together. She still thinks that. And they
yeah.
call it a legend. They're like, the legend is going to repeat itself. It's not just her. All the kids know about it except for
Well,
Charity and Miguel at
which
this
is
point.
annoying again because Ross is walking around with his Palm Pilot, talking to like looking up Wikipedia articles about Warlock Island and talking about like this is truth. It's just so annoying.
Yeah, and then Reese also tells another story about he tells the story about the origins of Warlock Island, and then Miguel, this pissed me off. I am so sick of Miguel Lopez Fitzgerald. So Reese tells this story about the Warlock Island. It's kind of like a little spooky story, right? The girls are like,
Yeah.
that's kind of creepy, Reese. Like, that's not true. And then Miguel comes in. He's like, oh, I'm sure Reese is just telling scary stories because he wants Kay to get scared and get into his sleeping bag. But Kay
Yeah.
has had multiple conversations with you at this point, Miguel, about how she does not like Reese and that she loves you. We've had multiple conversations on this at this point. He knows that Kay is in no way interested in Reese, at the
Yeah.
very least. So for him to like, I don't know. They're supposed to be best friends. It just didn't seem like best friend behavior, right? Like
Mhm.
if I know that Eric isn't into this particular person and then I make jokes about them getting together, that's not friend behavior.
Like I I just, I could be delusional about a lot of things, but not the way Kate treats Ross. Like
Yeah.
she's disgusted by him. And how can anyone live with this facade that they are a couple or that they like each other? And all of those kids do that. I think maybe Kay and Simone, I'm sorry, Jessica and Simone are the only ones that know that this is not a real thing. But I don't know how Charity and Miguel and Ross walk around and think that this is a thing. Um,
Yeah.
it's just really, it always bothered me originally. It bothers me today. It's just like I know we're led to believe that he's a genius idiot, but come on. I mean, like she treats him like shit. But you know what? There are guys that like that. They're just like there are people who like being treated like shit and
Yeah.
they enjoy it and they like it and God bless him. He's got his
God
Palm
bless him.
Pilot. He loves teasing Tabitha. I mean, that's what he's there for.
I don't know. I'm with you. It doesn't make any sense that he hasn't picked up on the fact that Kay does not like him and is completely disgusted by him. It doesn't make any sense because he was astute enough to pick up on the fact that Tabitha's a witch, right? It just doesn't
Well,
make
yeah,
sense.
I'm not gonna say he's not smart, but he lacks what we call the social skills, to quote Bobby Boucher's mom.
Bobby Boucher. I'm
Yeah.
Bobby Boucher. Um
Back in 1956, pick up sticks.
Oh, the water
Anyway,
boy. You know what? Now, nope. Okay,
yeah,
staying
yeah,
here.
we'll
We're
stay
staying
on
here.
track.
So let's just talk about Kay's new plan, which is the old
Yes,
plan, which is she's planning to sneak into Miguel's sleeping bag
which she
and
already has done already.
yeah, she already back on during the mine shaft camping trip. She snuck into Miguel's sleeping bag, but it turned out to be Reese's. I can't remember how they ended up it switched, but they were switched. Um, and so that's her plan. She's gonna sneak into Miguel's sleeping bag and have her way with him. She believes that, and Simone tries to talk her out of it. She's like, "Why do you think this will work? Miguel loves Charity. He doesn't love you. He like give it up, Kay. And why do you think this will work?" And she says, "I just know it'll work. I just know once I'm in there with him, he's gonna wanna like have sex with me and like he'll forget all about Charity." No, which here's the problem I'm having with Kay on this one. You have been given all evidence to the contrary of what you believe. Every step of the way, Miguel has given you nothing, literally nothing from the time after y'all kissed. So once they kissed in the mine shaft. They kissed one time, I think, before they went to hell. That was a thing, and I was of the mind. Miguel is leading this girl on, Kay on. And I believed that I understood why she believed that she had a chance with him. But at this point, right at this moment, babe, this isn't the move. I get why you think that maybe you have a chance with Miguel. I do. I get that. But a move this big is
Well,
crazy. It's
because
wild. No, babe,
yeah,
you gotta lay the seeds. You gotta play the game long. If she's trying to get Miguel, she has to play a long, long game. And she's trying to do it fast. She's trying to
well,
do instant oatmeal.
Yes, and all she wants is to, as she says, once I get pregnant with Miguel's baby, boom, he's mine. And
And
that's
Simone says to her, you know, y'all are not ready to be parents. Neither of you are ready to be parents.
yeah.
Like, what about that part?
God
Kay
bless the
brushes it
Russell
off.
sisters. God bless the Russell sisters because they are trying to help their friends through the good and the bad. And Kay is definitely worse off than Teresa. Teresa is misguided, but she's a good person. Kay, on the other hand, is hell bent on making shit happen. And Simone's got a
Yeah.
so it's just like God bless the Russell sisters.
Yeah.
Their
And
job is
Teresa has a reason to believe that she should fight for
oh
Ethan, right?
yeah,
They
yeah.
were and they've been
Teresa's the
engaged.
better.
They're
Yeah,
supposed to be married.
yeah.
Kay has none of that. She has nothing to go on besides the fact that they've kissed a couple of times and he's like her best friend. Fair. It's fair, but
I
like
do
the
think
whole
Miguel does not like you've said this a couple of times on here is that Miguel does help lead her on. Like he does lead her on.
yeah,
I have
but he
seen
hasn't done it in a while.
yeah.
He hasn't done it in a while and
Anybody
she
getting
just got
pregnant
her
does
soul back. I just thought she was I'm glad that I'm glad we're gonna get our like nefarious K back,
yeah.
but
But
I
like what is good? Good is not I know my cousin's gonna die. I'm gonna let fate kill my cousin because that is not good.
here's the thing. But is it bad? If it's fate, it's fate. That I can get on board with. That I absolutely can get on board with. Like
Yeah.
and she can maintain
Whatever's
her
supposed to happen,
purity.
happen. Yes, but she is going in there knowing full well that
Que
charity.
sera, whatever will be, right? Like I'm all for that. I think it's dumb, but fine. If
And
you
what I,
want to believe that, fine. But yes, getting climbing into this boy's sleeping bag and assaulting him to try and get pregnant is absolutely bad, 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 bad,
yeah.
horrible, girl. What do you do? What?
And
What?
what
And
I
think about if the roles were reversed. Think
oh
about
yeah,
that. I mean, it's a rape. Let's call a rape a
yeah,
rape.
yeah.
Call a rape a rape. This, like, Jesus
Well, she tried to do
Christ,
that with
Kay.
Hecuba's plan before, where she was going to look like Charity, and Miguel would fully believe that he was making love to Charity, but it would have been Kay. So this is going to be upteenth time where she does something like this.
I believe it is the fourth time. I
Yeah.
believe it is the fourth time she has. This is just this girl's plan. This girl is a sexual predator. She belongs on a fucking list and in a jail. She belongs on a list. I'm still Team K though. She's a sexual predator. She is.
and
This is her fourth attempt this is her fourth attempt that I can remember. That I can remember at this.
sleeping
Girl.
bag one, sleeping bag two,
Okay.
Hecuba with the potion,
Heck yeah,
like
but
uh, making her look like Charity.
there was one time when she snuck into his room early on. She snuck in like lingerie and got
Oh,
into bed with him. Yeah. Yeah. So four that
what's
I can think
is
of.
no. What's funny to me is that who is helping her out is this woman right here.
Hmm.
The opposite of a cock block is Miss Tabitha Lennox. She knows full well that if Miguel and Charity make love, Charity comes into her full powers, and we aren't going to have any of that. And I always love that Tabitha knows her mission because she's got to deal with warlocks, she's got to deal with an axe wielding Norma, but she is going to help Kay get laid. She is like, let me know how I can assist you. She doesn't tell her that, but she's ready for the assignment. And
Yeah.
she uses her goofy old lady kooky performance to help Kay get into the right sleeping arrangement to be with Miguel.
Yeah.
And Tabitha knows full well that this is going to help her. She's like, I can't have Charity getting into her full powers, so I'm going to make sure and I'm going to help Kay as much as I can. And there's a couple
Yeah.
times where the kids are like, we're going to go over here, we're going to go over here, we're going to go do this, and Kay offers because Tabitha can't be alone. She offers to stay with Tabitha, and that's when she asks Tabitha, "Hey, do you mind sleeping in Charity's bunk or Charity's tent.
Yeah, Charity's tent. Because what had happened is that once they saw that Tabitha was there, Miguel was like, "Oh, Tabitha, I can't like what are you doing here?" And she's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I don't need much. I just need a blanket." He's like, "You're going to need a lot more than a
yeah,
blanket." And he says that she can sleep I can't remember in his tent. He
yeah,
says you can have my tent, and then Kay pipes up and says no, she can't sleep in there. It's too far from the fire. And then he says, okay, well then Tabitha can sleep in your tent. And she's like, ugh, okay, fine. And then that's when she asked Tabitha, would you actually, or yeah, because Kay was supposed to. Here's what was gonna happen. Kay was gonna then sleep in Charity's tent. Tabitha was gonna sleep in Kay's tent. So Kay then asks Tabitha later, once all the kids are gone, hey, would you mind actually switching with me and staying in Charity's tent? Because I'm scared that I'll wake her up, basically. Because she didn't want Charity to see her sneaking out to go sneak into
yes,
Miguel's tent, into Miguel's sleeping bag, whatever. It
yeah.
also begs the question, do they all have their own single tent? You know what? It doesn't matter. We're not going to get into it. I don't care. Um, Air. I'm not
But
doing
the
that.
logic of it is trifling. It's like, ugh.
What I do want to talk about is once all the kids come back, Kay and Simone are having a conversation, and Kay explains her terrible plan. Simone tells her, "You're loony," and
Yeah,
which cracked me up. But then Charity sees a vision in the fire and just starts screaming.
yeah, out of nowhere.
And I'm not gonna lie. I'm just not gonna lie to y'all. I have missed this craziness of her. Like I forgot how fucking weird she can really be.
And
Can you
just
imagine taking her anywhere? I wouldn't take her anywhere if I was Miguel. You can take this bitch any fucking where.
again, this leads to the thing that made me laugh a lot last week was when Julian and Rebecca had to like interact with her. Like they were terrified of the girl who had premonitions, but she just yells at the fire, and we don't get any context. We usually we usually get some visions. We usually get some visual representation of what Charity's seeing, but we get none of that. She's just
It was
yelling at the
so
fire.
ridiculous. She's yelling at the fire. No, no. And then Miguel comes running, right? And he says, what's going on? And she says, I just see a vision in the fire. And they ask her what the vision is. And she says, I saw something so terrible. What? Okay, what was it? I don't know, is what she says. She says, I don't know what I saw. And that's when Kay looks at Simone and says, talk about loony.
Yeah.
She's so
Yeah.
right. She's
Yeah.
so right. It was disconcerting. It's hard to watch. This girl, it seems to the untrained eye, to an outsider looking in, it seems that this girl is really losing her
Yeah.
grip on reality, truly. And so then she says she does see that there's something about Teresa and she's in danger, and this girl's rocking back and forth.
Yeah.
She's rocking like this. Teresa, no, don't drink that. Oh no, Teresa. Huh? And every time Miguel asks her what's going on, she tells him, I don't know, but you obviously see something.
Yeah.
And she's like, Teresa's just in great danger. And then Miguel
Also,
wants to
yeah.
call their mom, but there's no cell service.
Yes. At one point, Kay says, "What is she babbling on about now?" Which again, that one made me laugh as well. So she had that also. But yes, no cell service because that's stereotypical of all movies, especially in 2001. Because you know what? I rarely lose service now. Rarely, but man, was it and this was it was a trope, it's a stereotype now, but it definitely was a thing in 2001. You could definitely lose
Oh
service.
yeah.
And so, but yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
one.
and they're on an island. I like honestly when I'm at the beach here, I have
Yes.
very little
There,
service.
yeah, yeah,
So that's honest. It's understandable they don't have any
yeah.
service. She then starts talking about a boat. She sees a boat exploding and people dying. And that's when we connect to Sheridan's whole shit, because Sheridan and Louise are looking at a fire and their fire kind of like flickers higher too.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that's happening to Charity and with the fire at
And
the
it's funny
campsite.
because they are like, oh, Sheridan's a little freaked out by the fire. She's like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then they're like, never mind. Blah, blah.
Yeah, basically.
Eh,
Yeah, so
about that.
she's screaming. Nobody can really console her. Reese at one point says, "Well, Charity's visions come true all the time. Like, what is it that she's seeing?" He's wanting to know. Here's the thing, though. I was thinking about this. Charity says a lot. Something bad's going to happen. I just see danger. I see something bad. I mean, really a premonition at that point, right? Like all she ever sees is bad things, and she can never. A lot of times, she can't even tell you what it is, and especially in like this instance, she can't even really tell us what's going on. She saw the boat exploding, okay, but like if she just says, "I don't know," it's danger. Yeah, well, though it's a dangerous world we live
We
in.
all, I mean, like, open up a horoscope to anything, anybody can find danger. But I will say that just a few weeks ago or a few episodes ago, somebody was just like, Charity's visions don't always come true. Like, somebody also said the opposite, which was Charity's stuff doesn't always happen. So, because they either take measures to prevent them or something happened. Like, the thing is, if she can't give you detail, what can you do?
No,
What can
no, nothing.
Now she did say, now she started to finally say, I see something happening with Teresa's going to make a choice that's going to mess her up for the rest of her life, or like it's gonna be something she regrets for the rest of her life, is what she
Yeah,
said.
she says Teresa's on an island and she's in terrible trouble and
Yeah.
she's gonna regret what she's doing and it's gonna be too late. She's gonna make a choice and it's gonna be too late.
Yeah. And then with Sharon and
Yeah,
Louise, explosion. There's a boat. There's something. Somebody's gonna
yeah, but
die.
she doesn't see the people dying on the boat. All she
Yeah.
sees, like, she doesn't see Sheridan and Louise. She just sees a boat exploding.
But again, with all
Um,
the wacky shit that happens in Harmony, I would listen to her, and I do. I give her credit. Is that I give them credit? Is that Miguel tries to call Pilar and is like, "Hey, where's Teresa?" But he can't get any phone service. So at least I will like, okay, they tried to figure it out from where they could. They also tried
yeah.
to go back to Harmony, but the boat captain, who is Norma, I don't know.
I don't know. That's what I don't know. Is Norman the boat captain? Did she kill the boat? Like, it doesn't
I
make
thought
sense
she
for her to
killed the
be
boat.
the boat captain,
I thought she
right? It
killed
doesn't
the
make
boat
sense.
captain.
So
So,
either she
which
killed him or she stole the boat.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
The thing is, Miguel says, boat captain told me we can't leave till tomorrow, so we're stuck here and we have no phone service. So we'll
Yeah.
just make the best of it. And charities can just freak out by the fire while we go to sleep.
Yeah, basically, they
They're
then
making s'mores. They're making s'mores while charities like,
no, they Tabitha then makes like a big scene about going to bed because she has this plan that if Norma sees her go to sleep in the tent, then she'll be tricked into thinking that they're in the tent and they'll just sneak away before she ever sees them. Of course, this doesn't work.
no,
Tabitha,
yeah,
Norma hears their plan. She is on to them. Yada yada yada.
yeah.
Yeah, she's following them around. They leave. They do get out and they leave.
And let me tell
Later,
you,
Kay
Tabitha and
sneaks.
Timmy haul ass to the boat. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
they get back to the boat. But Norma follows them to the boat. And that's really where we ended with them. And later, Kay does go to sneak into Miguel, which notably she does it without any help from Simone, whom she does ask Simone to help her, kind of like she tries to bring her in on her plan, and Simone's like, "Nah, girl, you on your own."
And
No.
and again, Kay brings up, after all the time that I've helped you with Chad, you're not helping me. And Simone's like, no, I'm good. I got hit by a car like a day ago, so
Right.
I don't need this shit in my life. Also, Simone's
Yes.
little hat was annoying me. She
Simone's
looked
little
cute.
hat.
Yeah, she had like a little bonnet hat, but I
Yeah.
didn't need it on her all the time.
Yeah. Well,
The little hills that I'm dying on, but I was like, Simone, no. Take the little
I
hat
didn't
off.
mind it, but I
She's
don't I
cute.
don't
No,
really
she's
recall
cute.
it.
Yeah.
Um,
I like some. I wish they gave her more meat.
I
That'll
mean,
be
she gets some meat later.
yeah.
She gets her storylines later. And we do the Chad Whitney stuff for a while too. Like we do the
Yeah.
Chad Whitney Simone stuff for a
I'm also
while.
like, I know they were like, well, let you go, but like her obsession is Chad. I don't know why she is on this island with these kids, because she should be trying to figure out Chad stuff.
Well, allegedly it was a school trip the fuck? With 6 kids?
With no
Allegedly, they were
chaperone.
talking when they were planning this. They were like, "It's a school trip. It's our annual school trip, and where should we go?" And it's like, is it a
Yeah.
school trip? It's just y'all.
Remember, there's only 6
Okay,
students in Harmony.
and it seems that way. So that's it for the day. Yes, that's the whole
Yeah.
shebang.
Can I just tell you
All
that
right.
Tabitha and Timmy were cute? I mean, like you said, if we spent every minute recapping what they do, it's too much. But Timmy had some great little yells, great little like oh, at one
Yeah.
point, he again, just to reiterate this, Tabitha's cheering on Kay because she's like, I hope that Kay beds Miguel because I don't need Charity and Miguel to be together. And Timmy's like, yeah, because then Timmy gets Charity all to himself.
Ridiculous. It's absurd. It's absurd. All right, that's it. That's the show. Um, thanks, Eric. Thanks for being here
No,
again. I
yes, of
really
course.
appreciate it. We'll see you one more time next
Yeah,
week. Remember, everybody, we're having a watch party on the 28th. Thursday the 20th. Thursday's the 28th. Yes, Thursday
yeah.
the 28th. Another watch party. Hope to see all my patrons there if you can make it 7 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, join the Patreon and get access to fun things like watch parties and bonus episodes, things of that nature. All right. And with that, you are my passion for life.